Welcome back to Where's the Any Key, a podcast about all things geekdom and beyond. I'm joined today with my good friend and co-host, Adam.
G'day,
Hey, Adam.
g'day. How we going?
Doing well, doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, cruisy. Ready to talk about some of these movies we've seen.
Yes, actually, and again, you'll find that there's a bit of a theme, um, due mainly to the fact that Christmas has just come and gone. I've revisited a few films from my childhood, or our childhoods actually.
Mm.
Um, some of them being, well, classics, and I'll get into why I say that with air quotations, and some that have held up quite well. So, uh, just dive in and get into it. We all know Macaulay Culkin of the Home Alone franchise. Um, he's actually doing quite well. It's a bit of news that he's that was recently come out or late last year was that he was doing quite well. He's sort of gotten back on um I think the fame train, if you will. You know, doing bits and bobs and podcasts and doing his own thing, and he's actually come back quite stronger than ever. And he's like, hey, just call me Mac. It's what all my friends call me. I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm on doing these projects. I'm doing these other things, and yeah, it was actually quite good to see him. Sort of, you know, get back on his feet, as it were.
What's
From
Yeah, what have
Mhm.
you seen in him? Like, because I've seen him in a few things recently, and it was kind of surprising to see him. But I'm just curious if
So
there's any sort of projects you've seen
about
him in.
two yeah, about 2 years ago, I saw him um in one of those sort of YouTube channels by the great uh, uh what's it called? Angry Video Game Nerd.
Oh,
So he
right, he
was
was on
there.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
And
yeah,
then
okay.
he was able to have a sit down and he was actually playing the Home Alone video game, I think, and something else. And yeah, and he was just a really, really cool, personable guy. Who was just down to earth, and he's just like, yeah, this is me, and this is, giving tidbits about the film and what it's like, and what he had to do for schooling during that period, and how he had to sort of cram a lot of school in between scenes, and how early he would have to wake up and everything else. So yeah, it was actually really really cool to see. And I think late last year was like just a bit of news that he was like, yeah, he's back in sort of the public eye again, but this time for good things, as opposed to everyone speculating, oh yeah, what's happened to him. But yeah, so I was really happy to see that because like as you said, he's one of our I guess biggest childhood actors that that kind of represents the late 80s, early 90s. So for all us 90s kids, as it were. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, getting into it. So one of the films I revisited, and mainly for to watch with my son, uh, as I guess a rite of passage, as it
Yeah,
were, as
yep.
all kids really have to go through, was watching Home Alone. Um,
Yeah. It's
gee,
yeah, I'm going to be taking you to lead this one, man, because I haven't seen Home Alone probably since I was a kid. It was no rhyme or reason. Like our family was never a massive movie family. We didn't do the whole gather around and have family movie night. We did every now and again, but it wasn't like a regular thing. And I do remember us as a family, I think, watching Home Alone, and that was probably mid '90s, maybe late '90s. And I mean, I've actually, yeah, I know you can't see it at the moment. I've got up the overlay. I'm actually I've somehow found Home Alone on YouTube, but I think they've done something funny to like it skips forward and whatnot. I was watching a little bit of it before,
oh
which is okay because I mean, I want to avoid the copyright strikes on YouTube. And I just realised you may have seen the screenshot I sent to you on the chat. I've actually put the Where's the Any Key podcast text up on the screen, smack bang in the middle of it, just to avoid some of these algorithms and bots are getting better at picking up if you're obviously recasting a copyrighted material. So
yeah,
hopefully
no,
that
fair
won't
enough. Yeah.
ding us. So it might look a bit funny for anyone watching, but yeah, just know that's to try and avoid copyright. But yeah, I mean, I don't really. I probably remember more about the Richie Rich movie, which I loved him in that than I
Oh
do over
yes,
Home
yeah.
Alone. But yeah, tell me about Home Alone. How did you find it rewatching it?
All right, so I do understand this from the time, 1990s. I would have probably been about 4 years old, just 4 years old, a little shy of five.
Yep.
So again, of the era and everything. Um, I will say this: the bits that hold up back
Mm.
then
Mm.
still hold up now.
Okay.
The traps, Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern
Yeah.
as Marv and what was it? Marv and Harry.
Yep.
Again, excellent. And Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, endearing
Yeah.
at some points.
Yeah. Can be a
the
little.
rest of
Yeah.
the rest of it, I will say, does not hold up today.
Yeah.
Uh, I who was it that played the uncle? There's a character who played an uncle character in the film, and
I saw when I was scrubbing through. I saw John Candy. I didn't realize. I
he
forgot.
yes
Forgot he was in the
he
film.
was
See-
so he comes into the film later when the mother is trying to get back to Kevin.
Okay.
He's the polka king, or the polka king is the guy who's part of the polka band, and it's like, oh, listen, hey, I heard you can't get a flight back. Look, one of my buddies is driving a truck back to I think Chicago or whatever it was.
Yep.
And would you like to join us? Do you want to come sit with us? If you're a fan of polka, you can, and the whole skit is him being a polka guy. So he's like, have you heard of this? We're the polka kings of the South, I think the Southwest or Mid Southwest, something or other. And he goes, we're also what's it? We came out with several albums like Polka Polka Polka, let's poker again or something or other.
So it's
So
like a bit. Do you
so
reckon John Candy pitched
yeah,
that to
yeah.
them? Like, is it like, yeah, I'm just gonna wing it. Actually, he's in a scene now where she's at the mother's at the airport going off at the
Yep,
attendant.
that's the
He's
same.
he's in the background. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So he comes over in the yellow big like jacket.
Yeah.
Again, I think yeah, like after like the third reference of polka, you're like, yeah, we get it. It's a polka guy. Right, you love polka, right? Get it.
Yeah.
Again, that overall wasn't still too bad. Not too bad in the film.
Yeah.
John Candy, I've been a fan of. Uncle
Oh,
Buck.
legend.
Um, uh,
Absolute legend.
Trains, planes, and automobiles. Loved him
Yeah.
in that. Stripes. Again,
Yep.
brilliant guy, funny guy. Um, but that being said, he a small part kind of makes you laugh. Meh.
Yeah.
Forgettable, if anything. But the person I really gotta really call out in this. Well, several characters that I have to call out in the film. One of them being Uncle Frank, played by Jerry Baman, I think it is.
Okay.
The guy who also is in what was he in? What was he in?
Is he the old dude with the white hair,
Yeah, old dude with white hair, but
mustache?
he. Did he have
No.
a mustache in it?
I'm just saying. I'm
No, not
watching.
no, he didn't have a mustache in the film.
Okay.
Um, but he was in what else have I sort of seen? I remember him from like old films like The Bodyguard and The Long Kiss Goodnight sort of films when I was really into those. But I can't remember from something else. I could swear I'd seen him in another later film like in the 2000s. But
I'll look him up
anyway,
now. I'm curious. So yeah, while you're talking, I'll look him up.
so yeah, Jerry Baman, so Baman. He he plays Uncle Frank in the film. So again, don't know. It's never clarified if he's like the brother's brother or the sister or the mother's brother. Sorry, the
Mm.
father's brother or the mother's brother. It's never clarified. He's just Uncle Frank. He is the most loathsome, irritating. This man should not be around children character
All
in the
right.
entire film. He is
Yeah.
such a jerk. I mean, and I guess that's the crux of it, right? Like, in this entire film, like the first film, everyone treats Kevin like an actual pariah. Like he's diseased or something. They hate this kid. Like like I get that in films, like they try to make it like, oh, the kid's suffering, like he's always, down bad, or no, but they literally hate the kid in this film.
Yeah.
Like, it is so bad how they turn. Then you got the guy who plays Buzz, who's like, Kevin's older brother, I think, Devin Ratray.
Yep.
And this guy's like, got to be 18, and Kevin's like 4 or 5 in this film, right?
Mm.
Um, and the way he just treats Kevin is ridiculous. Like, again, I think it was a PG. Yeah, it is a PG movie of the 90s. But like, he goes off and like calls him like a little jerk, a little turd, and again, being a brother and having younger siblings and stuff, I won't lie. You did tease your brothers. You did call them names and stuff. But this older brother, like, he goes, I think Kevin goes, "Oh, hey Buzz, can I borrow this?" And he's like, "Get lost, little turd. No one ever wanted you anyway," sort of thing. And I'm like, wow, the kid's asking you like if you know where his toothbrush is or something. He didn't like ask you to borrow a lung or a liver. So that's his
Oh,
older
easy.
brother.
Yep.
The other like sister cousins, I again don't know what they are in this. Treat this kid with such
Disdain.
disdain. Yes, lack of a
Yeah.
better word, disdain,
Yeah.
and and it just
So it kind of endears you to him. Like, do
disgust.
you feel sorry for him?
Oh, no, you think they would endear you to him, but Kevin doesn't do himself any favors either, because he's sort of like, he walks around going, like you think he'd have a little pride and be like, which he does show, he does have a little pride in the story, but
Mm.
he's sort of like, um, is like, oh gee, hey, like I think one of the sister characters, I can't remember what was on that, like oh geez, what was one of the girls' names, like L- Linny or something or other. I can't remember. But he goes, "Hey, what does this mean?" Oh, jeez, Kevin, you're so uncultured. Why are you even coming to Paris with us? You should
Yeah.
just stay here. And I'm just like, Godness sake, he's like 5. You're like what, 12?
Yeah.
Cut the
They
kid some
must.
slack.
They must have been in the writing. Hey, they're trying to make him. Making it endeared to him by him being just down and out and luck kid. He's just little bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid trying to do his thing, and everyone just shits on him.
Exactly, and and I think, and again, I think I'm looking at this through the eyes of an adult as opposed to a kid. Like, as a kid, I think I would be more endeared to Kevin. I'd be like, oh man, he's like, I get it, dude. He's a kid, and everyone is all the grown-ups hate you, and all the people hate you. All the people are jerks. Which I it's not lost on me. I get that that's what the film is. It's a kid, showing the world that he's able to stand up against it, and through the kid wonder, again, albeit being through the guise of a Christmas film, you know.
Mm.
But the other two equally villainous characters in this. The only character who isn't a villain is the character who plays the auntie, who I don't even know who that is. But there's a character who plays the auntie, um, and she's the only like decent character because she's
Mm.
genuinely nice and not evil. But John Hurd and Catherine O'Hara, who are Kevin's mother and father respectively, um, are just as bad. Like, the dad is absolutely clueless to the point of like, no, like I get that a lot of these kid films make the dad clueless, which again is one of the weirder aspects. Like, the dad's just utterly clueless and hopeless. But this guy takes it to the level of negligence, like criminal negligence. Like, I'm shocked that this man actually knows the name of his children.
Yeah.
It is that bad. Like,
Distant 90s dad. On business,
yeah,
business, business. No time for family.
exactly. And I would even forgive that, but it's not even that. He's just like this bungling idiot who's clueless to everything. Like, they get to the point where they're in Paris, and they've realized that Kevin's sort of at home, and he's like, well, we didn't leave the stove on. Ha ha ha. And
You're
the
like,
cops are just like, what?
yeah. What is
You're
wrong with
telling me
you?
your yeah, like you're telling me your 5-year-old son's left home alone in another country, and you're what? And and so like the mother's freaking out, and she's like over the top, like I've just lost my son, blah blah blah, and and so John Hurt's character is like, oh honey, I'm sure he's fine. You know, he's not a baby anymore.
Oh, he's
He
just
is
trying to
growing up.
reassure him. He's just trying to reassure him.
And I'm like, and she's like, he's like, again, I'm not sure how old he's meant to be. Like, again, I could be thinking he's meant to be 5, but he could be like, I don't know, between 5 and 8. I don't think he's
Mm.
meant to be 10, because I
Yeah,
think when he's
yeah,
8,
you're right.
he's meant to be an 8-year-old.
It
Okay,
looks
so he's
about
meant to
that.
be an
Yeah,
8-year-old. Um,
I see. Kieran Culkin's in it too.
yes, Kieran Culkin. So this is one of the things that I always found interesting is like you could always tell Kieran was his brother, even though in this he plays his cousin,
Yep.
who apparently wets the bed. So I guess all right. To get into the film, right?
Mm.
So they're all packing in this frantic mess. Um, Joe Pesci appears as a cop, obviously scouting out the house, and he's obviously understanding that they're going away on a trip, and he's like trying to pass off as a police officer to see what security measures they have.
Yep.
Obviously foreshadowing that he's going to be a criminal or whatever, right? Um, and and during all this, like they're ordering pizza and everything, and so Buzz, the older brother, um,
Mm.
what's it called? Eats Kevin's pizza because like Kevin, being an 8-year-old, only eats one type of pizza. He only eats like a cheese pizza. So Buzz apparently eats it. Everyone else eats all the slices, and he eats the last one. And so, like this 18-year-old guy, over to this 8-year-old kid,
Yeah.
um, goes, "Oh, I've got some of the pizza left for you," and he starts making these retching sounds, and he like sticks out his tongue with all of his like, and I'm like,
What a
dude, you are
jerk.
like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but my mom was like, dude, you're like 18, my dude, like,
Hey,
wow.
I've known plenty of even older than that are immature as well. It's yeah,
Well,
it's
yeah,
obviously,
fair enough.
but yeah,
But I'm
definitely
like,
sounds like they're trying to paint it as like he's against the world.
yeah, it is very much so that. And so Kevin gets mad, and he pushes Buzz, and apparently because he does that, Buzz knocks over some drinks, and everyone panics, and then like the uncle, the first thing he says, "You're a little jerk. You're unwanted." He like, basically says, "Look, you should have never been born." And so Kevin
Whoa.
stands up for himself, and he's like, "You're just here because my dad's paying for the ticket. So shut up." And this guy's being a jerk to me. And the first thing the mother does is jump down Kevin's throat and basically go, "Right, go to your room, Kevin. You're not having any dinner. You shouldn't treat your uncle and Buzz that way." And Kevin's like, "For starters, I haven't eaten anything. I'm hungry." Like again, I'm kind of paraphrasing here,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And he's like, and Buzz was being a jerk, and Uncle Frank called me a little jerk. He's like, "I don't care, Mister. Don't take that tone with me." I'm like, you're obviously not listening to the kid.
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like everyone has seen what's just happened.
yeah,
But okay, whatever, right?
yeah.
And so Kevin does the, well, I wish you all, um, I didn't have a family to spend Christmas anyway, and that kicks off the whole him being left behind, blah 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 blah. So yeah, not to get into a blow by blow of the film,
Mm. So is there, I guess is there like a moral to the story? Like he ends up realizing that being alone's worse off, and once his family around, they all come together at the end. And
it's very poor. It's very poor that they try and push that moral, but that's quintessentially the moral that
yeah,
Kevin kind of regrets having that wish, and he realizes, yeah, um, he shouldn't have wished his family away or whatever.
mm,
All of this is on Kevin, mind you,
mm,
and so Buzz, who was the absolute jerk, who kind of instigated that, because again, in that, I guess, not to give it a blow by blow, but in that, him wedding everything, the dad being the utterly clueless person that he is like, "Oh, you guys," and he starts dabbing like all the, like, I think it was Pepsi that spilled over all the stuff. or he's like, "Oh, Kevin," and he starts cleaning all that mess up, and he brushes Kevin's plane ticket into the bin. Um,
Mm.
so obviously to kick off the whole thing, but again, it, it, perhaps I'm looking at it too much like an adult, but it was one of those things where I'm like, so Kevin's the one who learns the lesson, but Buzz, the instigator, the uncle who's a complete, they make him out to be a real cheapskate, so a complete cheapskate and someone who should not be allowed near children. The clueless dad and obnoxious mother don't learn their lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So you think to yourself, the kid who's the innocent one and suffered all this hasn't has learned a lesson, but everybody else
Yeah.
who are the
That's
actual
it.
jerks haven't.
Yeah. They really need
So
old Scrooge to give him a visit in the night.
yeah, and I'm just like,
What?
what now?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because obviously I remembered this as a kid film, sort of being like, oh, poor Kevin, he's all alone, he misses his family, you
Yeah.
know. I would, I guess, accept it more if Kevin was like this little terror,
Mm.
like a little jerk, and then he's like, oh, I wish all of you were gone anyway, and then through that he's like, oh, he realizes, comes to terms like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so rude or mean or whatever, and with his family kind of putting up with him and him realizing that, oh, my family are kind of nice. They are kind of, they do put up with a lot of my crap, and that being the moral of the story, where he like learns to kind of grow up, but also be nicer and not be so much of a little brat.
Yeah.
It's none of that. Kevin's the victim, and
Yeah.
again, and so like while watching this, I'm like, holy crap, this is not what I remember as a kid, and
Right.
poor Kevin. I'm like, throughout the whole film, I'm just like, poor Kevin.
Yeah.
um, it just makes me laugh because, and
Just
again,
how you remember
so
things, hey? Like
yeah,
just
it is
different
weird how you remember.
perspectives. What
Yeah,
did your son watch with you or?
yes. So he watched it with us. He was excited. He kind of, again, through all that, he's kind of, I guess, he was aware of it as well. He sort of was like, why are they being all mean to Kevin?
Yeah,
Poor
okay,
Kevin.
nice. Yeah.
And it wasn't until, and I mean, it
Do you
was a
go,
little bit boring
shut up,
at
you
that
brat.
point.
Enjoy the movie.
Yeah, yeah, shut up, you brat.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
doing the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
You should be grateful for this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, start acting like those
Yeah.
horrible people.
Yeah, that's it.
um, so then it sort of cuts to, the Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern characters who are just these caricatures of criminals. And then it sort of kicks off that whole, them robbing and him sort of, nope, I gotta defend my house, and him becoming brave and all that, and getting, I guess, more independence,
Mm.
as it were. But he becomes this like braver kid, makes a stand. It's like, no, I'm gonna stand and defend my house and my little and my castle and blah blah blah. That bit is fun. When it gets everything prior to that, there's just, because it cuts back to the mum and dad, and like I said,
Yep.
they're in Paris, and the dad's laying on the bed, and the mum's like, "All right, I have to leave. I'm getting on the next plane out of here." And the dad's like, "Relax, honey. We'll get the next plane tomorrow. Sure, Kevin will be fine. One day won't kill him."
Of course,
And I'm
every real
thinking
parent would be going, what the hell? That'd be, well, this wouldn't even
that'd
happen. You
be
couldn't even get to this point.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But and I'm like, this is insanity.
It's a
This
bit of,
man doesn't like. Does he
yeah.
even care about his kids? So
Yeah, so
yeah,
these sort of movies, I can kind of suspend my disbelief. It's funny. It's often I've thought about sometimes movies make me really get up my nerves or get on my nerves when they do nonsensical stuff that doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, how come I can suspend my disbelief for one movie but not another? And it is
mm,
very much case by case. Because I've sat here, like we were talking prior to this podcast recording about arguments in the shower. Sometimes I'll have arguments with
yes.
myself about it and trying to work out, why do I complain about this in this movie, but I won't complain about that exact same situation in another. And it's sort of like a number of things like, you can only take so much of ridiculous circumstance
Yes.
or happenstance that to a breaking point we go, oh, come on. And then other times you
Yes.
can, I can look past that, because it's, Yeah, so I guess this movie's got. Would you say it's got too much of that happenstance, and you just by the end you're
Way,
like, oh,
way too
come
much.
on, yeah, yeah,
No, no, it is way too much. I mean, like I said, the dad was just utterly, and the uncle, okay, if they wanted to portray the uncle as a cheapskate, cool. If they wanted to portray the uncle as, somebody who's bitter and mean, I guess fine.
mm.
But it this guy's insulting this kid as if he would insult another fellow grown man. Like,
Mm.
if this was an M rating, I'm sure this guy would be dropping F bombs at this kid who's 8 years old.
Not sure they get past the senses.
Yeah, which, like I wouldn't throw it past him. It's just like that bad.
Yeah.
And what's worse is, all right. So you want to sympathize with the parents because they've left the kid behind and everything.
Mm.
His parents are so unlikable that you're not rooting for them. It's not oh, you poor parents, like, you through all that stress and blah blah. You're not, because
Mm.
John Hurd is so oblivious to the fact of this kid, and every other kid except the Buzz character, like, so Kevin's other siblings
Yep.
are just background fodder. That like they might as well be background characters and occasionally pop up and be like, "Hi, I'm Kevin's sister,"
Yeah.
sort of just to remind you that they're in the film.
Yeah.
Um, and Kevin's mother is just over the top obnoxious. Like, at one point, she's in Paris and she's immediately, right, we have to get back to Kevin. You go do this. You go do that. You go interrupt this lady. And one of the girls go, Mom, this lady isn't getting off the phone. And it's like some French lady talking to, I don't know, somebody. And she's like, excuse me, miss. Yeah, yeah, she'll call you back. And she's like, shoves her off the phone, pushing this. And the lady's like in French. And I'm like, is this meant to be funny? Like, is this meant to be a comedy act? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be, PC or oversensitive or anything. But I'm like, that's not funny. That's just you. You're just an obnoxious. It was like, you reminded me of every obnoxious, self-entitled person that's currently all over the internet, and it's really getting me mad. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like that again. Like you said, suspension of disbelief, right? It took me completely out of that. I was just like, you're a jerk. I don't want you
You.
to win. I don't want you to get back to your kid.
Yeah, you almost want that scene from is it planes, is it's either, I think it's Planes, Trains and Automobiles, where Steve Martin cracks and he goes up to the desk and cusses out the
Yes,
attendant. Yeah, I mean that's a great scene because that's what
it's
you
a
just wanted.
brilliant scene.
Yeah, you wanted any of the characters to do that. And he goes up and does it. You're like, yeah, cop that. Poor lady she didn't actually do anything too wrong. He just was at his tipping point. But
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I looked up.
But mhm.
Sorry. Well, I looked up. It was Jerry Bandman you mentioned. So
Yes.
what he's known for: My Father's Will, Home Alone 2, My Secret Billionaire, Lightning Over Water, Desperate Hours, Passion of Mind. None of those I've seen. Even Home Alone 2. I don't think I've actually seen Home Alone 2. So I don't, and I've looked at him. I don't actually know him. So this is probably the only movie I've seen him in. But the dude I was thinking of, loaded him up, was Bill Irwin, and he's actually only in like one scene. He's an old man, white hair, mustache. He's in the, I
Yes.
think he's like at the
Yeah,
bus stop. Because I saw
he-
him, I
he's
was
he's
like,
he's a shovel guy, I think. Or
yeah.
he's a film.
And he's in, oh, now I've forgotten, but he plays like a bum in a movie I've seen before. Um, it's a pretty popular and famous one, but I can't quite find it on here. And I've gone to the, it's like he's in heaps of stuff too. He's like he always plays like a real small part in one of these movies. He's in The Naked Gun, 33 and the Third, but I don't think it's from, like, I've seen that movie. I love that movie, but I'm just trying to remember which one he's in. But this dude had heaps. He died in 2010, unfortunately, but he was an old dude and he was in heaps of movies. So, but that's where that's where I got confused. His name was Bill Irwin.
Irwin.
He's in The Land Before Time. I wonder if he did a voice on one of the characters. Do you know? Sorry, I
Oh
just get
yes.
I get
No,
sidetracked.
sorry. I thought you meant he was in this one. Funnily enough, guess what he's in?
What?
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The one film I'll
Oh,
be talking about that actually holds up.
yeah, nice.
um
Yeah. Sorry, go on. You finish your thought there on.
I was gonna say, sorry, I thought you mentioned he was in Home Alone. No, no, the shovel guy's a completely other guy. But yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's oh okay, he's you're right. He's done a few small bits here and there. He's actually done a few. He's actually been in Hot Shots as well, which was a fantastic parody of um Hot. No, what was it?
Top Gun,
The
wasn't it?
Top Gun. Yeah, Top
Yeah.
Gun. There we go.
Yeah.
And he's also in The Manchurian Candidate. Ugh.
I'm trying to remember the movie. I could picture it. I can picture his scene where he's yelling at someone and he's oh no, there might be a different actor now. Now it's coming a bit clear. Anyway, getting off topic. Um, yeah. So
So,
actually, I did have a question on Home Alone.
mhm.
Was it? Would you say because it's obviously it sounds like it's a family movie, but a good family movie is something that the adults can watch too and get some sort of enjoyment out of it. Is there any sort of anything in there for adults like a sort of like humor that would go over kids' heads, that sort of stuff?
There is a bit. There is a bit. Um, yeah, I would say Home Alone 2 is probably the better film, and there is a bit more of that. There is a bit more of that, and there is actually some childish humor that is actually quite good. So
Yeah.
like kid
Okay.
humor that you do have a giggle at, and you're like, oh yeah, my inner child is having a giggle. Um, so yeah, so I guess to finish up Home Alone, um, the first film. Uh, so Catherine O'Hara, yeah, she ends up getting to the airport back to America. So like again, the husband actually stays in Paris with everybody else, and she ends up going back, after just being a complete pain,
Yeah.
and she she gets to, I think, like, I don't know, like Delaware, or like some Midwestern town like that's snowed out, and like apparently they haven't got planes to go back to Chicago, wherever it is. And again, that's where she meets John Candy, who is called Gus Polinski. Gus Polinski, Polka King. Okay, so I guess it was probably a bit, um, that, like a whole thing that John
Yeah.
Candy really sort of, yeah, um, but yeah, so she gets it, and I want to talk about this one scene where she like kind of cuts in front of the line, and they have this one lady who's talking to, like, I don't know, the airline person, I guess trying to work out where she's gonna stay or whatever. And so
Mm.
she cuts in like quite rudely. She doesn't even. I don't think she thinks she apologizes. If she does, it's like done it in a very aggressive and obnoxious manner. And then the lady's like, "Sorry, there's nothing we can do. There's no other planes. You have to find another way there." And so she's like, "Oh, okay then. Oh no, you go ahead. Like, no, sorry for interrupting." Like trying to guilt trip like this poor couple who was like just trying to get on with their whatever they're going on with. And she's
Yep.
like, Are you going home to your family? Because I can't. Because my child's home alone."
Oh wow, go on, you kidding? She baits him in.
Yeah, and then like and the couple are just like, oh, okay, crazy lady.
Good luck to you.
And then yeah, kind of like half like, and then she like snaps and pushes them out of the way again and goes, "You have to do something. I have to get home." And
Oh
I'm like,
jeez.
"Yeah." So I'm like, I am not rooting for you at all.
No. Yeah.
I go, like, child
Hopefully.
services is
Yeah, I was
coming
going
to
to say
take your
child services.
child.
So, yeah, go, Kevin, go be free, get your wish come
Yes.
true. Hit that every family.
And yeah, that so of course, Kevin defends the house. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are great as Harv and Marv, getting just completely pummeled and hurt, and just
Yeah.
and they do it great. They're like Joe Pesci as this old gangster film actor who, and apparently a little bit of a tidbit that I saw, uh, I guess after I'd seen Home Alone again, was when they asked him to do the film. Pesci was so used to doing all these Scorsese gangster films like Casino and Goodfellas, that he was so used to swearing like every second word. So
Mm.
he had to invent his own sort of language in order not to swear, which he does quite a lot in the films, like the Yosemite Sam, Frecken Reckon, sort of stuff.
Rassen
Yeah,
frassen.
yeah, Russian. Joe Pesci sort of really does that, and because I was wondering, like, why does he do that in the film? And oddly enough,
Yeah.
like a couple of weeks later, I was scrolling YouTube, and one of my feeds, a little short came up and go, "Did you know that Joe?" And he has an interview, and he's like, "I had to invent my own language because I couldn't swear on set." So
Nice.
yeah, great little tidbit. But yeah, look, uh, Daniel Stern as Marv plays fantastic of Joe Pesci's Harry, because Marv is like this tall, goofy idiot.
I've seen him, I reckon, in so many films. I'm actually looking him up
Yeah,
now
so
because
have
I'm
I.
trying to remember what else I've
Um,
seen him in.
and so of course, Kevin defends the home from Harry and Marv. They get captured. He sort of makes peace with the guy who's like this old shovel dude. I think it was like apparently the rumor was that he like murdered somebody or whatever. And like because early in the film they have a few run-ins, and Kevin goes to church like for Christmas before he heads home. It's very 90s, very white American 90s. The typical, oh, go to church before Christmas, and
Mm.
back in the days where we don't say happy holidays, we say Merry Christmas and all that sort of stuff. Um, so he meets him there and they have a discussion, and it kind of shows Kevin's growth as a character, him becoming braver and more grown up and being able to forgive his parents and everybody else. Again, why Kevin has to forgive, I don't know. It's these horrible, horrible people that Kevin lives with that have to, I think, learn their lesson. But
Yeah.
whatever. So, and he gives the guy a bit of a advice as well, like child pureness. Like he says something utterly pure that a child would, because the guy is going through a bit of an issue himself, and he's like, "Why don't you do this?" As simple as through the eyes of a child, sort of thing.
Mm.
Anywho, um, the mother gets back in time, and her and Kevin meet up, and there's this big hug scene. And he's like, "Sorry, mom, I shouldn't have wished you guys away. I missed you guys so much." And she's like, "Oh, Kevin," and of course, then the um the rest of the crew rock up, except for the uncle who stays in Paris for whatever
He
reason.
stays. Maybe he found himself a lovely lady.
Yeah, like I'm just like, what the hell? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
So and the dad's like, "See, honey, I told you, we got the plane." And she's like, "How are you here so quick?" Like, "We got the plane that was, the one that you didn't want to get. That was the next day." And I'm just like, "The
Good
hell
on you,
is wrong
Dad.
with you?"
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
wrong with you? Yeah.
what is wrong
Maybe,
with this man?
yeah. Maybe the uncle's like to his old man, and he's, don't worry about her. Come on, man, let's go have a bit of fun tonight. Leave the
Yeah.
kids at the hotel. We'll go have a bit of fun. We'll go see some Parisian ladies.
Look, I wouldn't throw past this lace bag of a man. And so of course the film ends. The bad guys are taken away. Everyone's saying, and Buzz does the whole, "You did all right, Kev. You did right, Pip." Like, so that's Pipsqueak. "You're pretty cool." And then he like goes to his room because Kevin obviously went through all this stuff. It's like, "Kevin," and obviously ends on Macaulay Culkin or Kevin's shocked face. And so that's the film. So does it hold up today? Absolutely not. It is. it is.
Wow.
It is not that lovable sort of kid film that you sort of think, yeah, kid power. Oh yeah, us kids are tough
Mm,
and we can do whatever. It was like, if anything, to me, I'm like, I get why there's that image of the obnoxious American
mm,
because of that film.
yeah.
Because none of the characters are likable, aside from the three main characters, which is Kevin, uh, Harry, and Marv. So the two criminals, who are
Yep.
actual criminals, are more likable than his parents.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard of people saying that before too.
Um,
That's yeah, they're more enjoyable. I mean, they look like fun. I'm watching. There's a bit
yeah,
of a scene here. I think where the classic the paint cans up on
yes,
the ceiling. They're going up there. That was yeah. That just flashed up then. That's pretty funny.
yeah.
It's probably the bit, like
So
you said. Is that the best part of the movie? Just where he's in the got the criminals in the house and running through all the
yes,
traps. Yeah.
absolutely, without a doubt. I think it's a bit of a slog to get there, but
Mm.
all right, okay, that's a bit harsh. It's not of a slog, but you're sort of sitting for the whole thing. It's like, what is wrong with this society? Like, you're like, who would do this? Who would act this way?
We
And,
live in
and
a
then
society.
yeah, and then you get to that bit, and you're like, oh, it brings you back to childhood, and you're like, yeah, because he has like the little, I think, micro machines or Hot Wheels out, and marbles, and like a BB
Yeah.
gun, and the crayon schematics, and like it brings you back to childhood. You're like, yeah, being a kid in the '90s, and like all that cool toy stuff, and you know, all consumerism.
Is there an
um,
equivalent these days? Like I don't. Well, I mean, I'm not that I watch kids films these days or family type of films. Um, God, I haven't even seen a Pixar,
I
like I dropped off Pixar years ago, and I mean, I'm just trying to think, is there any sort of a film like how would they make it? I don't even know if kids watch them.
I
Like movies have changed a
no.
lot. Like obviously there's a lot of kids now playing Fortnite and YouTube,
Mm,
watching YouTube, TikTok, and all that. So this kind of a film probably won't ever exist again. This will be
no, no, it
made.
won't. I mean, most films of I guess for kids these days, they're so and again, much better critics like Nostalgia Critic, the Angry Video Game Nerd, when he's like reviewing films, they all point out a lot of these shortcomings of in great detail and fantastic. Um, of these new films, like what is actually wrong with a lot of them. And one thing they all seem to have in common, and I'm borrowing their words here for a moment, is that the scene change or the story beats are so quick. So they're no longer. So you would see something like Home Alone and see that the story is revealed over a slower pace as opposed to
Mm,
films today for kids, which is like 1 second there's this one scene and then it's interrupted by a fart joke or something outrageous, and then it quickly cuts to another. It's so quick cut, so chopped up. It's very hard to sort of keep pace with it all.
mm,
Um,
the TikTok
it,
generation.
yeah, well, yeah. It's sort of because it's sort of the short span generation, right?
Mm,
Because they are fed so much information through like YouTube and TikTok and whatever else they can get a hold of through their iPads or on computers or their phones or whatever. It is just so you know um what's the word? Shot after shot after shot, and again, it doesn't really hold your attention for more than a couple of seconds. So you're right. I don't think there will be ever another film like this.
mm.
Um, but
It's
um,
gonna be interesting to see what they do. But yeah,
it
that's
would be. I mean, it just come to think of it. So sorry, just to finish the
yeah,
thought.
sure.
I was gonna say, as you mentioned, I don't think there is many. I could be wrong, but I can't think of any in the last probably 5 years or so films that have released in the sense of like Home Alone, like a kid is the main character, and we're looking at the world through a kid's sort of perspective, which is essentially what Home Alone is. Um, but uh, and having it real actors, like real life actors, I
Mm,
can't think of any. Most of it is either elimination stuff, which
mm,
again, give or take, some are good, some are bad, or animated stuff. I genuinely can't think of any kid film of the last sort of 3 years, um, that have
yeah.
done it. Um,
I mean, I don't really keep an eye out for them. Like it's rare these days. I go to the movies. I'm thinking about. Yeah, we'll
um,
probably try and make it for June 2. That's coming out next week, I think. But I mean, like, God, the last I can't remember. Maybe it was Spider Man. Was it? No Way Home.
yeah, there is one. But again, it's sort of one of those ones that you know, it's not the kid who's the main character. There is one that's called My Spy with I think Dave Bautista that I'm just looking at now. That they have something like Jungle Cruise, witches, but again, I wouldn't really call maybe the witches, I guess, because it is from a kid's perspective. But really, is it PG rated? Would you take it, like a 5-year old, a 7-year old to see this? I mean, because I remember watching Home Alone like as a 5-year old or a 6-year old. Um, Sonic the Hedgehog, I guess Sonic the
Oh
Hedgehog.
yeah. Well,
And,
there's
and
no.
but that
Yeah.
being said, I mean, look, I enjoyed it. Admittedly, being a Sonic fan, and they actually make it. Funnily enough, they actually do make a reference to Sonic. Um, yeah, the
And
drawings
no
and everything.
Donkey Kang.
So, yeah, no, no, Donkey Kong, only Sonic. um, but
Got to go fast.
yeah, um, but
Just
yeah,
sorry, instead of side note, have you seen the Knuckles trailer?
I have,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, little man's looking forward to that.
It's just
Um,
funny. It's because we got Sonic 3 the movie and Knuckles the TV show coming out. Sonic 3 and Knuckles like the game.
oh my god.
That's a cool connection. Yeah, someone put it out and went, "Oh yeah, that's really cool."
um, and as I was gonna say was yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. Even that being said, I mean, look, it was a good film, but likewise, the story beat was very quick. It's only in the second one that the story kind of was elongated a bit more. But that being said, it was still cut up. Like this a section where they're like searching for something, and all of a sudden dance battle, and then flash cut to something else, then flash cut to something else,
Yep.
sort of thing. So yeah, just looking at it like over the last, I guess, 3 years. Oh, I guess Peter Rabbit with that obnoxious, horrible person that is. Oh, what's his name?
Well,
Um,
they did a remake of Peter Rabbit.
yeah, yeah. Oh, no, they did Peter Rabbit too, but it has Oh,
Two. So there's been two.
yes, James Corden, that obnoxious.
Oh my god, yeah. What does he
Yeah,
voice him? Does he?
yeah, he voices Peter Rabbit.
Oh god, my
So you can obviously
why,
imagine what the
why?
film will be like.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So like those seem to be the new style of films that seem to be coming out for kids. Like
Mm,
like in the uh vein of the kid is the protagonist.
yeah,
So yeah, but
yeah, okay. But no, yeah, nothing like a. I mean, it's just like any other film these days. It's going to be a big blockbuster CGI, usually something Marvel or Star Wars or, one
mhm.
of the big franchises. It's very hard for smaller ones to get off the ground, but that's just a sign of the times. I think the media is changing, the landscape's changing. It is what it is. But hey, I just wanted
Yeah.
to, before we do move on to Home Alone 2, the one like
Mhm.
you'd mentioned, the Mac going on the Angry Video Game Nerd podcast, the one I saw him on, and this is like
Mhm.
without me really even thinking about Macaulay Culkin in years. He appeared on a show I watch quite frequently on YouTube called Red Letter Media, and I've got one of their videos up at the moment.
Oh, no
And he's
kidding.
yeah, so he's appeared on.
Yeah.
He's been on like I think he's been on about 3 or 4 episodes now, and he's been in a couple of skits with them, and he's great. He's really good. Yeah, he's just like one of the blokes hanging out because I don't know if you've seen Red Letter Media stuff, but it's just basically
I've seen
a
a few
bunch of
things here.
yeah, a bunch of blokes just sitting around drinking and talking about movies, kind of like what we're doing in a way. But they got really good rapport and have really good videos. But yeah, he joins in on that, and it was like, oh, good to see Mac. He was looking really good, doing
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, it is one of those weird things where sort of watching him, I guess in a weird way, he is sort of a representation of the 90s in a good way. Like, and again, not to put that like all on him, like Michael J. Fox. Um, I can't remember what I saw him on recently. I think it was like on Reddit, like one of those quick sort of clips. And he is looking older, and he is looking um sort of more affected by his illness. Um, but to me, he's always going to be Marty.
Yeah,
Um, and and there's always going to be that part of him that he's going to be, Marty from the Back to the Future series, and everyone loves him for it. And it's such a big thing. I know he did tons of other films. I know he was in a whole bunch of TV shows and
Spin
skits
City.
and everything. He's
Mm,
he's a very funny and charismatic person, but to see him at that age, like occasionally I will say that to Jody. I'll see a few actors and who you've grown up with, like, and you look at them and you'll be like, oh no, it's sort
what
of this
happened?
hard realization. Yeah, like what happened? Like, where did this
Hollywood
happen? Like, when
baby.
did they get that old? And it sort of makes you kind of check yourself, and you're like, oh no, I've
I'm
grown old.
old. Wait a minute.
I'm old.
Yeah,
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 wait a minute. Um, but yeah, he's yeah, I was gonna say he is that representation because he is the 90s. He's like Home Alone, Home Alone 2, My Girl, Richie Rich, The
mm,
Good Son, which is fantastic. And if you've not seen it, The Good
haven't
Son, he
seen
is
that. No.
brilliant.
Mm.
Getting Even with Dad, which I saw, Uncle Buck, which I
Oh,
remember,
yep, yep,
The Page Master, which again I was really weirded out at first, but then I fell in love with the Page Master, and he's fantastic. He is he is so good in that film as well as a Page Master.
yep.
Um, I there's also the black and white, I think, movie video or music video. Um, Also there is another film as well that where was he in? I remember I think seeing him as really, really young. Um,
I just remember
he
it's pretty young in Margot. Was Margot before this?
maybe I think.
No, it was after. I'm actually just looking up his credits here. That was not so. Home Alone was 1990, My Girl 91, Home Alone 92, Richie Rich 94. Uncle Buck was 89, so maybe that's when you're thinking. Because you were pretty young then.
He was very young then, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it. I've really only seen him in, like I said, Richie Rich. I remember more. I've only seen him in that Home Alone, and I haven't seen Home Alone 2.
Um,
Um,
yeah, no. Before I get into like Home Alone 2 and stuff, I was gonna say, what about yourself? What was one of the films that you ended up watching? I guess, of recent.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the one I was gonna. This won't actually take too long, I don't think, unless I know what we're like. We do go off on tangents, but so I saw John Wick 3 Parabellum, not too
Oh,
about a week or
brilliant.
two ago. So I love the first John Wick. Excellent action movie. Very simple structure. Very simple premise. Great action scenes. Cool shots. It was just a great action. Like
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
it's just it was refreshing to see with a lot of again talking back about some of the films that get made these days. It was the Marvel stuff was getting a bit tiresome, and all the superheroes and comic book movies are just getting a bit boring, and they hadn't I'm not into the Fast series, the Fast and the Furious. That stuff's boring. Well, I've only seen it
I
first.
really fell off after I think the third film personally.
I
So yeah,
only watched
I
the
get
first
you.
one, didn't like it, never bothered going back. But yeah, so this one was just a good action flick from start to finish, and yeah, the second one I remember being pretty good too. I might go back and rewatch that because I can't quite remember it as much, but I remember it being good as well. The third one I was actually pretty keen on because I'd heard it was like one of the best of the three, and it kicked off with a bang like that start because it picks up immediately after the conclusion of the second one, which is he's basically got a
Mm.
head start to run from the house, whatever they called the guys that are the assassin group that are going to go after him. Or it's basically like Oath and Slather. I think they put a bounty on him for like 5 million or something like that to kill him.
Yes, the what was the
I
name?
forgot what they called.
Is it the Guild or something or other? The
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, that yeah, I was actually really disappointed in the movie by the end of it. Some of
With
the
number three.
actions. Yeah, so some of the like if they nailed the action stuff, it probably would have been a little bit lighter on it. But there were some scenes that just dragged on, like right at the end where he's doing this fight with this that martial artist dude, the Asian bloke, and they just hung on things. And it was
Mm.
definitely Keanu. Like obviously he's got his stunt double that does some of the shots, but he was obviously learning the choreography for the fight scenes, and some of them obviously wanted to hang on him just to see him doing it. But he looked old. Like I could tell he was a 60-year-old man doing these moves, and I was like, I was like, oh, this doesn't look good, because it was surprising because some of the shots, like yeah, I'm going off a little bit here, but I really like movies that do take their time and hold on shots when the action's good and the choreography's good and the shots are good. I really don't like modern action films where they're just cutting over here left and right, doing the real extreme close-ups and shaky cam, and I don't know what the hell's going on. And that's what I liked about the John Wick films, because they actually took their time, had clever shots. You could still understand what was going on and really enjoy the fights. And this one, it felt like they forgot all that, and they didn't do any crazy cutting, which is fine, but they did a lot of shots where they sat there for like 5 seconds or so, and it was like them at a distance watching them fight, and I could just see how slow they were. And you could almost see them like lining up there, this is where I stand, this is where I hit, this is where I hit, and it just completely took me out of it. So that was really disappointing. But the thing that let me down the most was the story, and that was where I'd become to realize that. So I'm just going. I'm not actually reading off a Wikipedia or anything like this, but from my memory, the first movie, and maybe this one was as well, was actually Keanu Reeves' stunt double or action coordinator was the one that actually was the director of the films, and I think co-wrote the films. And you could tell by the third one because it was god awful. It was wacky and stupid. I didn't like go to this guy to get your name cleared, and you must sacrifice your finger and all this sort of stuff. It was just stupid. Like I think that what worked in the first one was it was a very simple revenge plot line, and that worked because you didn't need it to be anything more. And then obviously
Exactly.
they were trying to fit story into it, and that's where you realise they fell over because the writing was just poor. So I was really disappointed. I don't think I'm going to bother going to see number 4 because I was just like, that was terrible. I just, if they're going to put more story in this, I don't really care. Keanu looked old. It's too old. I know he's old. I think I won't even bother with the 4th one. So I was really let down. But what do you think?
No, look, I enjoyed the John Wick series, saying because it was something different, like you said, choreography was different. The first one was fantastic. Simple revenge story. You are right. They've dragged this out way too much.
Mm,
The 3 should have been an ending, but they dragged it out to 4. So
yeah.
4. And I remember having a conversation at work, um, about franchises which tend to outstay their welcome, or they
Mm,
tend to elongate a story to the point of exhaustion.
yeah.
My main issue with that is you can have stories in the same universe or the same world that don't necessarily need to be a continuation of the original story. Like
Mm,
John Wick, you have John Wick, right? W- Sure, maybe make 3 films, and whatever.
yeah.
But it ended there, ended at 3, or maybe just make 2. You
Yeah.
don't need to bring it out to 4. Um, and then what you can do, if this character is so beloved, you can do John Wick origin story. Find out what made him so cool. Find him why, he was this awesome, amazing assassin. Why he was called Baba Yaga. How he got out. Why he
Mm,
got out. How you have all this backstory that you can use
explore.
to make
Mm,
another great film.
yeah. They
You
are
know
doing
what?
a spin off. Have you heard
You're
that?
kidding.
So the ballerina. So it was about the probably the least interesting character I found actually in 3.
Yeah,
Uh,
which
she's so they're doing a spin off on her.
which again, and I think to myself, you do. I mean, in the instances that they do tend to explore the world of certain franchises, they tend to focus on the worst or most unwanted or unlikable character. And you think, why? I could care less about that character. I
Yeah, well,
mean,
time will tell. Maybe it'll flop. I don't understand why they chose that character, but they're
do you
doing
know
it. And I
who?
think, I mean, this obviously stifles their conversation, but we know the reason why they run these franchises in the ground is money.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
it's done well in the box office. They've made revenue on what they over their costs of making the movie. Let's just keep doing it because the guys at the top saying let's just keep pumping it out, and
Yeah, let's keep
it's just
milking this cash cow.
it's a sad reality. There's very few filmmakers these days that will protect things like, obviously there's Quentin Tarantino, even though he's an arrogant jerk. I still respect him because he does respect filmmaking, and he will not generally not do sequels. He has done sequels in his career, of course, but he generally one and done. That's it. Movie done. He's probably had execs knocking on his door going, he's rocking up with big truckload of money. Here, make this, and he's just gone, no, stuff you. I want to make films, and I don't want to sell out. And it's very few and far between these days that you'll find a director like that.
You know what? Yeah, I gotta respect that. Again, like I said, I'm personally not a fan of Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino. There we go.
His movies or him himself?
His movies, like
Ah,
there are some films I do like. There are some
yeah,
of his films I do like. I won't lie, but uh, a lot of it is exercise in self praise,
yeah, oh, yeah. The dialogue
to
gets
put it
me when
politely.
they go on and on and on, and like I felt Pulp Fiction was overrated. Like everyone
Um,
goes on about that and great. Really didn't like
Re-
that.
Reservoir Dogs, overrated
yeah,
for me.
yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
seen that one.
Hateful Eight,
Whoops.
Hateful
Yeah,
Eight,
Hateful Eight. Yeah, I didn't like Hateful Eight, but I loved like
overrated.
Django. One of my favorite films of all times, Inglorious Bastards. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that movie.
I, I I didn't like it as much. I mean, well, I didn't
Yeah.
like the, I guess, Brad Pitt side of it. That I'm not sure if
That's
that's
probably
A or B story. I liked more the, I guess, the French Resistance,
yeah, that stuff was
because
good.
it was more gritty. It was more.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't want to say grounded because like both were grounded, but it was more. Um, I guess I like the revenge factor of it. There was more
Yeah.
subtlety that it was a plan that was going to be put together slowly, that you saw slowly coming together to the end where she was able to get them all
Mm.
and walk away, and and get the last laugh personally. But yeah, I guess going back to John Wick. Look, I love the world. I love the name of that amazing actor. Is it Shane? Ian, or is it Ian or Shane?
Oh, Ian
Uh,
McShane.
Ian
Yeah.
McShane. There we go. I knew I had parts of his name there.
Yep. Yeah,
I love Ian McShane. I think he's
he's
brilliant.
fantastic. I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast before, but Deadwood is my favorite TV show of all time, and he steals the show in that. He's one of the main characters. He's excellent.
Yeah, no, he is absolutely excellent. And again, as we were saying about the spin-off, just to sort of bring it all back,
Mm.
with the spin-off, I would have loved to have seen about, uh, you know, I guess his character, how he ended up running um the Continental, how all that works, how it was all um set up. Because you are right. At first, it appears to be, you know, the first film. It sort of shows that, oh, it's just this underworld that he lives in, and then all of a sudden in the second film, it's like, oh no, there's more assassins like out there. And it's almost to the point of comical because you're saying,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
they're meant
absolutely.
to be like these few, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the whole world is like broken up into guilds in the third one, or by the second one you kind of figure it out, with the homeless people and these people, and they all respond to one rule,
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's the stuff that maybe. I mean, having a whole bunch of assassins doesn't like. I mean, that's probably a legit thing. That happens in Russia all the time, right? Like, how many
mhm.
Russian diplomats all of a sudden get sick while they're overseas and oh, fell out of a window. Like, it's a legitimate thing, but they just started to stretch it too far. And I'd go in as far as, I mean, if this is probably just an easy way out, as just saying you just needed to do the first movie and that'd be it. But the second one,
Yeah,
props to them. They followed it up with a good one. I don't remember it as much, which isn't as a good sign. Normally, if I like
yeah,
it, maybe I'll remember it, but maybe I'll go back on after watching the third one and be like, ugh. But I remember it being good with that introducing the whole the Continental and etc. But yeah, the third one was just too much of story. Just and like I said, some of the shots weren't great.
yeah. And Halle Berry's character, I normally it's one of those weird things that you see an actor you haven't seen in a while, and you're like, oh, and you wonder to yourself, did I like this actor or actress because they were genuinely great, or was it because they were just the in actor at the time? Because like her in Swordfish, Catwoman, and James Bond, and I can't remember what else. I remember her from like those days. And now I saw her in John Wick 3, I believe, with the two dogs. If I'm not getting it mistaken with John Wick 2, and I was just like, this woman can't act, or
Yeah,
I'm like, this character is unlikable. Like
yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
don't care what happens to this character.
yeah. I mean, did you? Yeah, same. I didn't care about her. It was boring, all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah,
they try to make you feel with her daughter being captured, this that. I felt nothing. I was like, whatever. Just get through the
exactly.
exposition, get on to the next scene. Um,
Exactly. It was like, my daughter's captured. So,
and then he goes like, what was it like? I need your help, please. No, they might find her and kill her. She's safe. Please, okay. You're like,
yeah,
right, okay, that was a scene. Whatever. You could have just cut that out. Like, but there was no even really. I can't remember. I could be wrong here, but I don't think it was an even callback to it. Like, they just did that. They cleared out. They killed the bloke at that joint, and then
that was kind of
scene.
it.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
like, right. What was the point of all that? So
exactly. So, I guess going off John Wick, did you know there's actually a pretty decent game, John Wick Hex?
I've heard of
It
this.
can,
I've seen it. Yeah.
yeah, I love the idea and the concept of it being you have to sort of plan out every kill and everything else and how to do it. So it's one of the ones that's been on my list for a while. I might actually check it out and play it a little bit later, in the year and see how it goes. And and hopefully it will actually be quite decent.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Um, I guess moving on for moving on's sake.
Yeah.
Home Alone 2. Home Alone
Yeah.
2.
So tell me about it. What's the difference?
Okay, so this one, in a way, they kind of um dialed everything up to 11 here. Um,
Yep.
so again, it starts out they're all at the house. They're getting ready to go out to, where was it? I don't think it was Paris this time. I think it was,
My God, Donald Trump's in it. I just saw him.
he is. Oh, Florida.
Bad movie. Get
That's
it
right.
out.
um, so they're sending him um to Florida, or they're going to Florida, and so everyone's like, "Yep, yep, cool, cool." This time, though, the instigating, I guess, issue or fallout of the film is Buzz. So at this point, Buzz looks like he's in his early 20s, right? And they're all singing at this choir. Oh, sorry. Actually, before I continue, so before all that, they're getting ready to go to this church choir thing where they're like Buzz and Kevin are in singing in the choir. But before that, Kevin's like sort of mucking around with this like tape recorder, thing that kind of echoes back what you kind of say.
Mm.
I remember the early toy in the 90s where you would say something, and then it would record it, and then you could like parrot it back with pitching the voice to make it sound squeakier or deeper.
They had a name,
Um,
didn't they? I can't remember what they were,
yeah,
but they were
yeah,
big. I remember them being a thing. Can't remember the name
yeah,
of them though. But yeah.
yeah. So but he's got one that looks very 90s. So um so he's monkeying around with that. The parents are like, um, Kevin, have you got all your stuff, your toothbrush and everything? He's like, oh, Uncle Frank's having a shower, and he told me I'm not allowed in the bathroom. They're like, what? Why? And he's like, oh, because he says if I see him naked, I'll never be a man ever again, or something along those lines, or I can never be. And I'm like,
What
this
the
man
hell?
needs to go to prison.
Yeah.
Like this, I go, I like because obviously as an adult you get the not necessarily the
The undertones or
the undertones of what he's
yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
and I'm just like,
Creepy uncle.
what the hell is wrong with this dude? And then
Hey,
and then the
so,
mum sort of like looks at the dad, and it's sort of like they kind of do this weird sort of, oh, Uncle Frank, I'm
oh,
sure he's just joking, kiddo.
oh God.
I'm
Meanwhile,
just
the
like,
mum goes over. I'm just going to make a phone call.
yeah. um, and
A
of course,
side note. As I said, Trump, I'm out, but
mhm.
now I just saw Rob Schneider's in the movie, so I'm back in, and Tim Curry.
Also the legendary Tim Curry is.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, so they're like, just go ahead and get your toothbrush. And so Kevin goes in, and I think they're trying to pass it off as a comedy because the uncle's like showering and singing along like some sort of jackass in the shower. And so Kevin's like, tee hee hee, and starts recording him. And so the uncle then sort of, I think, half spots him and goes, "Get out of here, you little pervert, you little freak! What's wrong with you?" And I'm just like, "Okay,
He
you're
said,
in this."
come closer.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess this is a positive. Is at least
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
telling him to come close. But
Yep.
like, you're in this kid's house. What the hell's wrong with you, my dude? Um.
Yeah.
So anyway, they make it to this, yeah, like, church choir Christmas thingy thing, and so the kids are there playing and they're all singing, and Kevin has this big solo come up, and then the choir, and Buzz, this 25, this kid who's meant to be, I don't know, maybe 15 or whatever, is this man who looks 25 at least, is
Mm.
standing behind him and starts sort of like doing bunny ears with these candles and pretending to air drum on his head and making all these goofy gestures behind him. And I'm thinking about it, it looks more obnoxious than what it actually is. Like I would fail to see uh, like anyone under, sorry, yeah, anyone between the ages of like 5 and 10 laughing at it. Like maybe a really immature 5-year-old and like, like a 4-year-old might find that really funny, but it's obnoxious. Anyway, the whole church crowd cracks up laughing, and both Kevin's parents are sort of looking at each other like, you know, is this bad
When
or
you get
isn't it
home, you're gonna
bad?
get such a beating.
Oh no, 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 no. They're kind of looking at each other like, huh, like what? And
Well, like
in the meantime,
confused, or
yeah, kind of like this. I don't know. It's like a phase of like, should we
oh,
say
should we
something? Should
intervene?
we?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like, should we intervene? Should we not? Um, Meanwhile, the uncle's like sitting there and he's cracking up laughing. This is the perverted, weirdo, cheapskate,
Oh,
sleazebag
I'd
of
be
an uncle.
loving it.
Like, oh yeah, like this man is short of like wetting himself, laughing at this obnoxious behavior, and so is the rest of the church. Of course, Kevin gets mad at being humiliated and pushes Buzz, and it sort of collapses everything. And so anyway, they're all sitting there like as a family meeting, like it's a fucking trial. And Buzz is like, I see what I've done wrong, and I ask that you only forgive me as I am only one man. And one like something along those lines, like obnoxiously over the top, cheesy sort of lawyer delivery. And then he like leans over to Kevin and goes, "Top that, you little prick," or something, or
Jeez.
jerk. And Kevin's like, "I'm not going to apologize. Did you not see what he did? He humiliated me. Like the guy's 25. Like cut the kid some slack." And the mum's like, "Oh, Kevin, if you can't forgive your brother, then you can go to your room." And Kevin's like, "Are you serious?" like, there's, I think a little bit of self awareness now. It's like, are you guys all being for real?
It's happening
I, I,
again. Deja
it's
vu.
happening. Yeah. I mean, and then so she walks him up to his like the attic, which apparently is his bedroom. The attic. Everyone
Because
has bedrooms, and apparently he's sleeping in the attic. Um, because
he's a gremlin.
yeah, or like it's nothing short of kicking him outside and going, here you go, sleep on the lawn, kid, in in the snow. Um, so they're like, and Kevin's like, you know what? I don't really wish I was part of this family. And the mother goes, Kevin, do you remember when you made that wish last year and you were home alone? And and
They said the
I
line.
hope, yeah. And Kevin's like, yeah, being home alone was the best like week of my life. And,
Zing.
and yeah, it's like you guys didn't treat me like I was not treated like crap. I was treated, And she goes, "Oh, Kevin, I wish you were to reconsider and not get what you wish for." So anyway, the whole they all get into the shuttles that's meant to take them to Florida in the airport, and of course, Kevin, being the kid that he is, um, he's the mother's like freaking out. They're like, "Where's Kevin?" And he's like sitting at the front. "Here I am, thanks." Like, grabs like the ticket, and the dad doesn't even flinch. Dad's like, "Oh no." Like he doesn't even. Anyway, so
It's
they run.
pretty much the same sort of
Yeah.
character. Yeah, okay. Well,
Oh
like
yeah. Like
looks like continuity.
yeah. Yeah. Credits to that. They continued
Mm.
making him a bungling idiot. So he's
Yep.
like, "Here, you go, Kevin. Pass all these bags off to the like where they're meant to be putting the bags and stuff." It's like, all right. And Kevin's like, Dad, where'd you put the batteries? I need batteries for this thing. It's like, oh, Kevin, not right now. Don't go through this stuff. And so he I think puts on like the mother's wallet backpack thing where it's like credit cards and everything are stored. And so that's like, all right, Kevin, keep up. And then he just bolts through the airport like at full speed. And Kevin's like, Dad, wait up, wait up. And like the dad just continues like running for his life away from this kid. And so of course, there's where the issue is. Like the dad catches up with everybody else because of course these people, being the obnoxious jerks that they are late
Mhm.
to the gate, so they're late for boarding. So they have to rush them all on. And what happens is yeah, Kevin follows another guy who's dressed like his dad and ends up on another different plane. Um, so just a few things. They're at an airport. They do this right. Kevin gets there. They board like the whole family, and the mother's like, "Oh no, I've got a feeling." Like even before the plane takes off, like Kevin might not be here. Can we go check, honey? And the dad's like sort of half, sitting already relaxed, sleeping. Like, honey, Kevin was with us. I'm sure he's back there.
Oh, you idiot.
Yeah. And the mother's like, can you ask the stewardess to go check? Honey, Relax. Okay. And I'm just like,
You-
wow.
she's not getting flashbacks, but you're getting PTSD from the first movie and back in France.
Yeah, but yeah, basically, I'm like this. Wow, man. So,
Yeah.
and of course they take off and whatever. And Kevin, so Kevin, now we switch over to Kevin's point of view. He runs to the gate and he sees the man who was just like his dad get through the gate, and the lady's like, "Oh, um, yeah, and look, you know what? Good writing, because it it made sense the way that he got onto this plane and how it all got mixed up. So
Mhm.
Kevin shows her the ticket, but somehow, actually he's handing it to her or whatever, he drops it in a pile of these other tickets. So of course, because had she checked the ticket that he had given her, she'd see that he was going to Florida and not New York.
Mm.
So like so it explains that sort of thing, like how can anyone be so negligent. It explains it away, and it's like, oh, okay, that's believable. Again, suspension of disbelief, that's believable.
Yeah, yeah.
He gets on and he sort of sits down, and one of the stewards is like, where's your seat, like, do you know what seat you're sitting on? And it's like, and she's like, where's your family, where's your dad? And he looks over and he sees a guy that sort of has the same scarf or whatever. It's sort of, you only see the back end, the back side of him.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, here there he is." And it's like, "Oh, okay. Look, just find any seat and sit down." I'm thinking, okay, still suspension of disbelief, whatever. They're in a rush, whatever. So
That would
anyway,
happen
they
back
fly.
then, for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he ends up getting to New York, and he's got the cards, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm in New York." And he's like
Yeah.
sitting there. How could? And he's about to go up to like the airline to explain everything, and then he remembers like the shitty family he has, and he's like, "I'm a kid in New York.
Yeah.
Woohoo!"
Yeah, I can
And
do
he's
what I
sort of
want.
like, yeah. And so it all comes together. Like he goes to the hotel, which is run by Tim Curry, and the bellboy is
Rob
Rob
Schneider.
Schneider,
Yep.
and there's another lady as well,
The blonde lady?
Dana Ivy. No, Dana Ivy, I think it is.
Oh.
Who's like the like this obnoxious reception lady, and the way like Macaulay Culkin's character sort of explains himself, it adds. So this is why I say it's better, because it adds to the suspension of disbelief, because he goes up and he's like, oh, um my dad made a book. So sorry, he had heard about the hotel through like a game show contestant thing
Mm.
that he'd seen on TV the night before. Like, Wheel of Fortune players stay at the blah 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 when they're here, before joining our studio. So, something along those lines. So he recorded that, gets those details, calls up, and kind of manipulating, I think, the voice thing of his that little toy he has, the little toy
Oh,
recorder,
yeah, good.
kind of
Nice. Nice call and
yeah,
response. Or, the
yeah.
setup and payoff. Yep. Nice.
Yep. So he books it, ends up booking a room, and then he walks up to like this lady who is Dana Ivy, who's like the not necessarily concierge, but like one of the staff there. And he's like, "Oh, look, I'm here to my dad's just dropped me off. He's got a business meeting. I'm here to get to my room." And she's like, "Did you book a room by yourself?" Like being already suspicious of this kid.
Mm.
And he's like, "What?" He goes, "Lady, look at me. I'm 10 years old. Do you think I could book a room by myself? Come on." Like kind of going, "Hey, look, idiot. Really?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is my dad's card. Um, he booked it under this and this and this, because of course he'd done it over the phone prior." And
Yep.
she's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Okay, let me check out the card." And they do that, and it's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And yeah, he gets a room which is like a suite or whatever, and of course at this point, Tim Curry's a bit suspicious of the little boy.
Yeah. Yep.
And of course, it's through that you see the Trump cameo.
Yeah. Walking
Um,
through that hallway.
yeah, walking the
Yeah.
hallway, he's like, "Excuse me, where's the reception?" And he's like, "Over there."
Over there.
Um,
It's the
over
best, the
there.
greatest.
It's
Believe
the
me, it's
greatest.
the greatest.
It's um, it's surprising he didn't, ham up that that one line.
I wonder how much he asked for. Like he probably would
Oh
have been,
god.
oh, you want me to play a cameo? Yeah, well, I'm going to need $50,000. Thank you.
um, so of course, Tim Curry goes to Rob Schneider's character Cedric, because of course Cedric the bellboy is sitting there at the front of like the counter, counting all his tips, and Tim Curry in that amazing voice and tone. It's like, Cedric, one does not count their tips in front of the customers. Like he's just so Tim Curry. He's
Yeah, he
just so
steals a scene. Yeah.
oh, he is. He's amazing. And
Yeah.
and Rob course is like, oh, of course, sir, and sort of fumbles to put the money away.
And he's a
And
perfect he's a perfect character. Like Rob Schneider plays that perfect sort of little skittish sort of,
yes, he
not a
does.
main role. He's great in that sort of a role.
Oh look, I think he makes Judge Dredd. If you haven't seen Judge Dredd in a while, rewatch
The
it.
is
So
that the original?
the original with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen that. I want to see the new one. Actually, I've heard the new one's really good.
The
But
new one is
yeah,
great. The new one is really
yeah.
good with the awesome New Zealand
Carl Urban.
actor Carl Urban, who is just
Mm.
amazing.
He's another awesome actor. Going on about him, but yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, me too. But two different tones. One's more
Yeah.
campy and fun,
Yep.
which is again the Sylvester Stallone one, and the other one's more serious and action heavy.
Mm.
So again, going back to this, so of course he goes up to the room, and I think the joke is this, Rob Schneider's character sticks out his hand and goes, "Oh, tip, sir," and and uh, Kevin's character goes, "Oh, okay, cool." He takes out like um fresh mint gum, so like have you ever had fresh mint gum? I think it might be like predominantly an American thing, but
No.
a brand. So you remember those old '90s style gum packets which came in like those silver sticks?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
extras.
yeah,
Oh no, you can get that, and I've had like the Big Red, that American brand,
yeah.
similar sort of
So
thing. Yeah.
like the big red style.
Yep.
He pulls out a gum and gives him a stick of gum, and and he goes, "See ya," and closes the door in his face. And Rob Schneider's like looking at the stick of gum as a tip. And
Yeah.
so, so and of course, like hilarity ensues. The parents are again like, "Oh no, we forgot him again," and the dad's just like, not even. I don't think the dad's even reacting to this. He's just like, you know, I think at one point he's like, "Oh, we're here in Florida. The weather's great and whatever." And the mom's like, "We forgot Kevin." Screams, passes out, and he's like, "Honey, honey,
It'll be all
um,
right.
it's gonna be." Yeah, you could tell he could care less. Um,
Yeah.
Um, so of course, same sort of premise. They're trying to get they're trying to figure out where he is. They've got no clue where he is, or where he could be sent to. Kevin's having the time of his life in New York with all the money he has, and
Mm.
a kid in New York with unlimited funds, so toy stores and all that sort of stuff. Um, Funnily enough, uh, Harry and Marv, Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, are walking down the street. They're like, right, we escaped. We're here in New York. We're gonna make it big. We're gonna steal from toy stores. And Marv's like, why, Harry? Why are we gonna do that? And he's like, because Marv, toy stores are gonna have all the money before Christmas, and it's gonna be too late to take it to the bank. So that's where they'll leave the money. We hit the biggest joint in New York, which is like this famous toy store, which happens to be the place that Macaulay Culkin, Macaulay Culkin's character Kevin, is going to because it's like top notch. Of course, he orders uh, the the whole that's the whole point. Like he does all the flashy things the kid with money will do. Like he goes to the pool, like orders a whole bunch of
Mm.
food for the suite.
Mm.
Oh, I should mention. Um, so Tim Curry's character, the concierge, gets suspicious of everything. Like
Mm.
you're like, oh, what's this kid doing with money? And so what he does is like he walks in, and of course Kevin's already thought of this. He gets like this inflatable dummy. I think like and like he makes a silhouette of him having a shower, right? And and of course again that little tape recorder thing comes into play because he had how he recorded his perverted uncle in the shower is basically what he plays back as Tim Curry's character sort of misunderstand has that great misunderstanding. Oh, he's actually talking to me when it's really a recorder,
Mm.
an inflatable thing. So
Yep.
yeah, so then he ends up ordering a limo and pizza and drives to this famous toy store.
So
So yeah,
just
look,
before we continue, the that exact scene when you're talking about running into them happens to be like I've just let a again for some reason I found Home Alone 2 complete movie on YouTube and I've just got that playing just as you're explaining that scene about him running into the two crooks in the store. That was playing. Perfect timing.
brilliant, fantastic. Um, So yeah, so all that happens. He sort of um learn. No, what happens? I think before that, like, he runs into them. Does he run into them? Hold on, let me have a look. Let me remember. No. So he finally gets back from the store and everything. Of course, he makes friends there. He comes back from the store. He gets into the hotel. Apparently, the card has been cancelled. Like, that's the one thing the dad does. The first thing is he cancels his credit card that he's aware that his son is using.
Yep.
Um, and of course, so the concierge Rob Schneider and stuff, try and throw him out.
Yep.
And so he makes an escape and gets away, and he sort of lost in Central Park and all that sort of stuff, and meets this crazy bird lady. Oh, I should mention one of the funny bits. So again, going back to Rob Schneider and the tip.
Mm.
I think the next day, Rob Schneider comes back and says, "Here, sir, here are your boxes. They're all dry cleaned." And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You can't, be showing those around, man." And he goes to Rob Schneider, "Oh, hey, do you want a tip?" And Rob Schneider goes, "No, sir," like chewing gum. Still got some left over. And
Nice.
and so but by saying all this, Macaulay Culkin's character takes out a water cache and goes, "Oh, okay then," and so puts it back in,
Yeah.
and Rob Schneider's like, "What? No, no, no!" And so he just slams the door in his face. Again, great scene. It actually
Nicely
is
done.
there's much more funnier scenes in it, like more
Yeah.
constantly, like it's
More
sillier
tighter
scenes.
written. Do you know if it's the
Yeah,
same? Is it the same writer director or?
that is a very, very good question. I
I'll look
am
it up.
not sure if it actually is for the same writer
So
director.
It was Chris Columbus for the first one, and the writer
Yes,
was John Hughes.
Yep,
Uh,
same writer director, same
yeah,
writer
well, there you
director.
go. Well, they just got it. Yeah, they nailed it, obviously. But because this, I mean, looking at
It
these,
was
what you're
way
explaining
tighter.
to me, yeah, and looking at this thing on YouTube, this is one I'd actually probably watch because looks like there's a lot more going on in it. Like you
Yeah,
don't have the fluff at the
and
start and the end. It looks a bit more well thought out.
yeah, and so the story is much more concise. So
Mm.
basically, yeah. So he runs away from the hotel, gets lost in Central Park, and it's like, oh no. And then Joe Pesci and Daniel Stone's character sort of, you know, capture him, and they're like, oh, you know, Daniel Stern, Marv is like, oh, we're gonna rob the toy store and we're gonna get away with it and blah blah blah. And Joe Pesci's character's like, shut up, Marv, shut up. Don't tell him everything. And of course, with the recorder, Macaulay Culkin's character, Kevin, is recording everything. So he records their entire plan and them admitting to it. And so he escapes somehow and like he runs away. But because he's also got like his dad's address book, he ends up learning that one of his other uncles lives there, like in New York. So he goes to try and find the house, but like it's a house that's being renovated and they're not there. So he's like, oh, okay. And then again, I can't remember the exact pacing. And of course, but during all this, his family, mother, everyone's trying to get from Florida to New York, to get Kevin.
Mm.
And so all that's happening in the background. Again, of little consequence, little to non consequence, really. Um, so, um, yeah, so I think he devises a plan, that he's going to use that as his base of operations. Um,
Yep.
so he goes off and finds, um, yeah, at that point, it like it's probably what you saw. It's in the both Marv and Harry are in the toy store after clothing. They're stealing everything. And so Kevin, what he does, like with those old Polaroid cameras, takes a bunch of pictures and kind of goats them, going, "Hey, hey, here I am, come and get me. I'm going to show the cops this."
Yep.
And then, so, of course, before all this, obviously it's a huge plan that he's worked out. He's written a note, ties it to a brick, throws it through the window, which breaks, setting off the alarm, and then they obviously give chase. He ends up being back at the renovated house, which is set up as a death trap, and it's absolutely hilarious. I think one of my favorite scenes is that the both Harry and Marv are like, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" And Kevin's up at the top, on the roof, and it's like, "Hey, it's like, hey, jerkwads," or "Hey, dum dums," and they look up, and and so Joe Pesci's character Harry's like, "Oh yeah, kid, when I get you, I'm gonna." Like the typical Mo Sislak reaction to Bart's prank calling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I find, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna do, and
Yeah.
and he goes, "Oh yeah, well you have to catch him first." And so um, Kevin grabs a brick from like the roof and throws it down, and
Yep.
it just nails Marv, so Daniel Stern's character, straight in the forehead, and he just like folds like a deck of cards.
Yeah.
And so there's this interaction between Harry and Kevin where they're just like back and forth. Like Kevin, like Harry's like, "Oh, you're gonna try better than that, kid." And sort of Marv's like between this getting back up again, like all dazed, and so Kevin lobs another brick at down, and of course it hits Marv again square in the head, and you've got like this Daniel Stern's character like, like Harry, stop, like I can't take any more of this. And so he gets I think pelted by this brick 3 times, square in the face. He's just lying there, and then like the hilarity ensues where like they try and get in all the booby traps, where they, it's just funny after funny, like just how beaten and badly bruised they get. Um, of,
Yeah,
of
nice.
course, all of that happens, um, and they sort of corner him, and he runs to Central Park, I think, as an escape. But what happens is, I think he slips on like a bit of ice and
Mm.
kind of gets floored for a bit. That's when they sort of capture him, and of course they're covered like in tar, sticky stuff. Um, through all the incidents in the renovated house, they get there, and of course, just like the first one with the crazy shovel murderer old dude who's not really a murderer, he's just a misunderstood old man. There's another crazy bird lady who's not really a crazy bird lady, she's just a
Again, perfect
understood
timing. They've just got to the scene
homeless
where the
lady.
birds, where they're in the
Yeah,
park.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so she comes to save him, and of course he'd already placed the call to the police, and he sort of sticks the recording of with a note into one of their pockets, and they try and shoot him, but it doesn't work because the gun's like all gunked up, and like she obviously screams for Kevin to run away, and he does, and these pigeons obviously attack them, and so they're basically tarred and feathered. But Kevin sets off a bunch of fireworks. The police come running, um, and arrest them, and they sort of find the what's it called, the confession in the tape,
Yep.
and then yeah, and that's sort of how the movie kind of ends. Really, then the next, Kevin goes to like the big tree, and I think what is it, Rockefeller Plaza or whatever it is, um, and the mum finds them there because the mum's like, "Oh, where am I going to find Kevin in New York?" And of course she guilt trips him, guilt trips some people, which is the cops, you
Cops, yeah,
know.
that scene's right happening right now. They're enjoying their
Yeah,
donuts and a coffee.
yeah, and she's like, "Excuse me, have you seen this little boy?" And they're like, "Sorry, miss, have you lodged a thing with the police?" And she's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh," and they're like, "Sorry, well, we'll do everything we can. I'm sure we'll if we see him, we'll let him." She's like, "Oh, okay. Can I ask you, are you a parent?" And he's like, "Yeah. If you were a parent, what would you be doing right now if your child was lost?" And the guy's like, "I'd be out here looking." And it's like, "All right, get in. Do you have any
Yeah.
idea where it could be?" And I'm just like, how are
God
these
damn
people
it.
getting away with this?
Emotional manipulation. She's done it again. That's a
Exactly. Like
superpower,
this.
I think.
Yeah. Like this is gaslighting to like nth degree. This person's horrible.
Forget
Um.
Madam Web. It's all about Kevin's mum.
Yeah. So so of course, like she's like, "Oh yeah, Kevin wouldn't shut up about the Christmas tree. I know where he is. Do you have a big Christmas tree yet?" And of course, they find themselves again. They hug and everything, and they wake up the next morning, and because apparently the hotel was like, "Oh, we're sorry for scaring your child away," because Tim Curry's like, both the parents are like, "So the moment you found out that my card had been stolen and cancelled, you threw my son out of your hotel. Whose bright idea was that?" And Tim Curry like pipes up as like a goofball, with a smile, puffed up chest. "Oh, I'm mine, sir." And he's like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah.
um, and so they give him obviously a suite. And anyway, they wake up like in this like penthouse suite, and like the toy store obviously knew it was Kevin, and they bring like truckloads of gifts. And of course, the 25-year-old, the guy who plays Buzz, is like, "All right, it's pretty cool that Kevin got us all these gifts and he was a nice guy and blah blah blah." Again, doesn't even sound sincere. It just sounds like he's brown nosing. But I think Kevin should open the first gift. He throws it at Kevin, and and he's like, "All right, enough of this sappy crap." And so they all open up their gifts and blah blah blah. Anyway, um I think one of the hotel staff gives this same dude, this 25-year-old, like the receipt for what Kevin had spent, And he's like, and he sort of gets this like cocky smirk on his face, and it's like, oh yeah, wait till Dad sees this, and
Yeah.
then it ends on the dad yelling, Kevin. Of course, the kid only spent like $900.
Yeah, so you're right. 967, I think. Again, lined up perfectly. This because this video I've got's like cutting forward, obviously to like I said before, to avoid copyright. And as you're describing that whole last from probably where the birds were to then was going beat for beat as you were saying it. I couldn't have timed that better.
Oh my goodness, that's
So yeah,
brilliant.
basically overall you rate that over the first one, much better.
Absolutely, absolutely better written. I think the comedy is much great. It's much more funnier. The actual uh the traps and everything. So so you've got the initial comedy, which is like Tim Curry, Rob Schneider, and Dana Ivy, which are
Mm.
the sort of the hotel
Hotel
staff.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah, and they're brilliant. Um, they're just hilarious. And then you got the secondary comedy, which is obviously Kevin versus the two thieves, and the way they just the brick scene where he just gets pummeled with this brick, and they just hurt, and it's it is quite funny. It's hilarious. They're really good at it. So, um, yeah, I would definitely rate this over the first one. It was much funnier, much more entertaining. The story much more concise and less of the obnoxious parents and obnoxious uncle. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
nice. Well, hey,
which
I could use a
Mhm.
break, so we might take a pause here. Unless there's anything else you wanted to say about Home Alone 2?
No, just kind of that. Like I said, it was this. I guess the only real thing was like it weirdly this one does hold up a lot more better than the other film. But
Yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
like I
that
said,
makes sense.
it's funny how
Just
you sort of remember things.
a proper written, again, it just comes down to story and writing, characters. Like, if you get that stuff right, you're pretty much like 90% of the way there. And
Exactly right.
yeah, cool.
That's
All
exactly
right,
right. If
we'll
yeah, let's take like quick
take a quick
intermission.
break, and we'll be back in a moment.
And welcome back. Um, yeah, so I guess as I was saying before, it kind of amazes me how a lot of these films that you watch in your childhood, you come back and rewatch, you get a very different perspective.
Mm.
Speaking of something that I'd actually seen quite earlier, and I had the absolute privilege to share with you, and I guess jumping in and half prompting you here, um, is uh, Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for introducing me to that because I think I've talked to you before about having some interest in the Studio Ghibli films. And, I've always heard about, like, yeah, obviously, Legend of Zelda, I've mentioned in one of the other
Hmm.
episodes, been my favorite game series. And they've been inspired by Miyazaki's films and, in particular, Princess Mononoke. And I mean, I'd never really understood that because I just hadn't seen it before. So you suggested, hey, come over, let's watch it, and boy, I'm glad you did because that's a fantastic film. Um, granted, I haven't really thought about it too much afterwards, apart from like some of the connections to Legend of Zelda, in particular, like Tears of the Kingdom, but and Breath of the Wild, of course. But it's I was a bit had a bit of trepidation going into it because I'm not a big anime fan.
Mm.
I've really only as a kid I watched Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. That was about it. I've seen Evangelion. I saw that when I was a kid. I can't really remember it, but I saw bits and pieces, and I find it's a bit some of the we've talked about it before when we were watching the movie about how stuff's over exaggerated, and that's just how it's a part of the culture there in Japan, how they run some of the
Yes.
animation there, and it's that's okay. That's a taste and whatnot, whatever. But I
Stylistic
found
choice. Yeah.
yeah, but I found Princess Mononoke really easy because it wasn't over the top. It was much more subtle with the way it went about its things. It still had like, of course, it's animation. You're going to have some, everything's a little bit exaggerated by the fact of it being animation, but it wasn't that ridiculous kawaii over the top or senpai, all that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, whatever that just like, ugh, that grates on me. But in Princess Mononoke, like, I mean, gorgeous drawings, gorgeous animation. The
Mm.
story was fantastic. It took its time. I liked how it sort of let things breathe a bit. And it was just a really good film. And yeah, I'm kind of interested to know how did you find it
Now,
originally?
originally, funnily enough, I've always been a I'm sort of putting on my nerd glasses here and being well, actually, I've always been a connoisseur of I've always actually enjoyed animation.
Yep.
Um, uh, so
What,
slight tangent
anime
here.
or
Oh
just
no, no,
in general? Oh,
all
okay.
in
Yep.
general,
Yep.
all
Yep.
animation. Um, I when it, again we're about the same age, so I was like, do you remember when Power Rangers first came out
Yeah.
in the 90s?
Yep.
I kept away from it, so I wasn't. I would see it come on, but because it had people like human beings, I was put off by it, so I would change the channel to like another cartoon show.
Yeah.
So in any
Okay.
form of
Interesting.
like sort of cartoon, clay animation, puppets, um, is what really intrigued me, and it
Yep.
still does to this day. Hence the reason I'm a huge Muppet fan.
Yeah. Love the
One of
Muppets.
my dreams would be to meet um Kermit the Frog. I like if he's
Yeah,
genuinely a celebrity to me.
that's
Um,
awesome.
it, so for me, a lot of I've always been into a lot of animation, and during the sort of after the Dragon Ball phase, I do remember some earlier anime stuff. Some of it I think would be um, not Gundam, but I think it was I do remember some Ultraman stuff. I think there was like some Ultraman stuff which I did find fascinating, but again, it wasn't anime. It was this other one. This I think it's Starman something or other. Starman. Um, may let me actually find it. Um, um, or Starnight. It was like in the 80s or 90s. So a lot of the 80s, 90s had a lot of more serious tinge to the anime. I think maybe Starnight?
Was it stuff like Akira? Was that around that?
Yeah, so Akira was like 80s.
Yep.
I think it would be Starnight. Another anime that would that oh here we go. Sort of 80s gr- greatest anime. Oh, Tekkaman. I think it was Tekkaman.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tekkaman was and that's Tekkaman.
Yep.
Um, I think it's also known as Tekkaman Blade or it's the Space Knight. A lot of I did see a lot of that, and what really fascinated me about it was the the fact that this person would now I'm not sure if he would transform or he would like become this like Gundam style robot man in
Mm.
space. And I
In
think
an
it was the
anime? No.
deep and I think it was the detailed artwork that got me. So like from those early like days of like, I guess being maybe 5. Oh no, that'd be way too young. No, no, maybe like 8, 9, 10, sort of seeing that, and then you know Dragon Ball Z, being exposed to that from Dragon Ball Z card captors, which I saw in I think on Cartoon Network. Um, and Sailor Moon I knew of, but I never kind of watched any of it. Pokemon was really, and why I still have like a love for Pokemon.
Mm.
Um, that being said, I haven't played any of the latest games or watched any of the shows after
Yep.
I think
Yeah, you kind of grow out of it
oh
a little
well,
bit.
you do, and
Yeah.
it, but that was like one of the first animes I saw from the initial beginning because normally you jump in halfway or you jump in after our first few episodes, um, and so I got really fascinated with the artwork, with the stories, and there were other animes as well that I saw. There is one about a particular, I think, and again, if any listeners might know, that there's a frog anime, um, which is I think in the 80s or 90s.
A frenemy or
For
frogame.
anime, yeah. Um, I think it's this Adventures of on Rainbow Pond, um, which is actually kind of pretty hardcore for the 80s because if I'm not mistaken, it's this crybaby frog who goes through so much horrible things. Like he I think loses his mentor, loses his parents. Like they get killed by like a giant horrible fish. And then like his mentor, who's like this old frog, gets beaten up and killed. Like in if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they get killed and like he suffers so much. This poor frog, like, and apparently bullies, like he gets bullied and he kind of cries throughout the majority of the series. But I remember the animation, and one of the key things, and it sort of helps me find what what anime it was. So it's called The Brave Frog, or uh, Demetan,
Yeah.
Demetan,
Yep.
Demetan, um, and it like this. Yeah, he just goes through so much horrible things. But one of the things I remember vividly is his red hat. He has like a red hat, like a cap that he has on.
Yep.
Uh, as well as like Astro Boy, I was aware of. Um, and really the animation is what really got me. I found it so fascinating, so awesome. Like, and again, I grew up with Transformers,
Mm.
Thundercats, uh, Batman animated series. What's the He-Man, like the late He-Man stuff, which
Oh, yeah.
again a lot before my time, but yeah, I grew up watching that sort of stuff, and I kind of really enjoyed a lot of it, and some of the obscure stuff, and I now this is going back a few years. I think I was already out of high school for this one. With what's it called? Naruto when it first came out. So
Yep.
I'm sure you've heard of Naruto, which
Yeah.
is like
Yep.
one of the um like most more famous animes. Um,
I know the
I can't
run.
remember. Yeah, the Naruto run.
Yeah.
um, uh, now when did it start? Let's have a look. See when it actually. I would say
Is that an old one? Like,
2000.
how far back are we talking with Naruto?
Oh, apparently I think in Japan it might have been like 97, but I remember learning about it maybe I would have been 17, so maybe 2003, 2004, 2002, around that era.
Yep.
I think so. Um, I learned about it then, and so I kind of really got into that, and then I also got into different animes of different genres, like Cowboy Bebop. I fell in love with that. I fell in love with one called Berserk, which is a
I've heard
very
of that one.
dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very dark anime. It's very gothic and dark. It's essentially the what you would call, I guess, like Dark Souls, the anime. Um,
Oh, that's
the
yeah, that's where I've heard it from because I was just thinking, then where have I heard that from? And I think, yeah, Dark Souls was inspired by that. Like that, another,
yes.
he's another Miyazaki, isn't he? Isn't his surname
Um.
the creator or Hidetaki? Or am I
Um.
getting mixed up? He's the
So,
director of FromSoft.
FromSoft. It is. Yeah, Miyazaki. Uh,
Yeah,
he Hidetaka. Sorry, I'm butchering that.
yeah,
Hidetaka.
Hidetaka. Yeah,
Yes,
Miyazaki. Yeah,
Miyazaki.
which we'll be talking
So
about
yeah.
soon.
So
But yeah,
so again, so my love for animation has obviously stayed. I mean, and look, I watched. I was addicted to The Simpsons for a long time, and Futurama, and Family Guy and all that, and I
so where
can't
did
remember
where did
how.
Mononoke come in?
I can't remember how I actually got my hands on. I think something Ghibli, or I'd heard of it, and I kind of got sort of interested in watching it. I would have probably been 20, so I hadn't watched it until like my early 20s, where I then had my first experience. Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro wasn't one I saw when I was younger,
Mm,
so I had no reference point. I think it might have been Ponyo or
mm.
Spirited Away. Might have been one of the two first ones I saw. Um, And
That's
again, for me, they were like really one-offs. They were just like, oh, okay. I didn't even know who Studio Ghibli was or
yeah,
who Miyazaki was. I had no idea. I just like, oh, okay, yep, whatever. And of course, at that point, a lot of it was coming to the West, and a lot of it was sort of popping up. And then I had two two old friends who were really into a lot of that Japanese culture and a lot like and everything. And then they sort of said, "Oh, you got to watch this, and you got to watch this. Have you seen this with the Miyazaki film? This one, um, which is Laputa." Um,
I haven't heard that one.
I'm like, "Oh no, I hadn't seen that." So I
Mm,
watched that one, and which led me on to another one, which I think led me on to Princess Mononoke.
mm.
And I remember sort of sitting down and going, okay, let me just watch it because I guess I've been good with that. I've been able to go right. I'm interested in
Mm.
this. Let me see. Let me watch. There's been a lot of stuff in my head, which I vaguely remember, where I'll sit there and be like, all right, let's see how this plays out. And
Yep.
it's some of the most abstract or surreal things I've seen. And watching Pretty Mononoke, I fell in love. I just fell in love with the story. I fell in love with the pacing. I fell in love with the animation, the voice acting, and everything. And a lot of that is great. And the one thing, the one critique I have, and it's going to sound very arrogant, uh, especially as I guess someone who grew up in the West as a Westerner, for lack of a better word, um, someone outside of Japan, is and I love the fact that a lot of Miyazaki stuff is very accessible to us Westerners, with voice dubs, and a lot of actors really want to get in and voice these amazing films. There's a reason
Mm.
they refer to that studio as the Japanese Disney, because it is so um what's the word,
Revered.
influential.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. Yeah, it is beautiful. It is it's sort of what Disney was originally. Um,
Yep.
so sorry, to continue what I was saying was, I would like there to be a bit more explanation, or hopefully um uh integration of cultures through through a lot of the movies. So with Princess Mononoke, it wasn't seen as much, although, and again, I have that bad habit of stopping a film and giving tidbits, as you know. But there was a lot as well that I kind of half feel obligated to go right. You might not understand the impact, or you might not understand like the cultural reference here as to why that is a certain way, and it might go over your head, and you won't appreciate maybe the next scene that will come up because sort of leads into it. Um, and again, I've only learned that because through the people who I've met who were so well versed, or very what's it called, into the Japanese culture.
Yep.
Because and it's only through those understandings that I have come to learn and appreciate that as well. Um, but and some of the anime I do watch, which I'm now getting older, I do watch some of the slice of life stuff, but
Mm.
also um I do watch some action anime here and there, some comedies and some other fun ones, but the slice of life ones do tend to revolve around sort of Japanese life and Japanese culture.
Yep.
And some translators are fantastic, because they'll put because you will see like signs and everything in kanji, um, that you wonder what does this mean or that mean, and the good translators will translate those signs, and
Mm.
or occasionally they'll have a particular word, like in German, um, has those certain words that don't exist in English. So what they'll
Yep.
do instead is they'll do their best to describe the approximation of that word, or the actual concept of it, so you better have a better understanding of. And the same with like what it does with food or cultural things. I would like to see more of that. I know it sounds very arrogant and very almost greedy, but I find that especially Japanese storytelling is fantastic.
Mm.
It is fantastic, and um, it unfortunately I haven't got the opportunity or the chance to learn Japanese at the pace I would like to learn it, because really, eh, I work at like a 40 something hour work week. Um, the weekend I have to spend, the first day, Saturday, is literally to do chores around the house and spend with my wife and child, and and get everything up to scratch. And then Sunday is sort of recovering before I jump straight back into work again. I mean, in the perfect world, I would find the time and put in effort specifically to learn Japanese, which again, as somebody who has come into this country and basically first generation immigrant, um I've had, I understand how difficult that might have been for my parents to learn another language and have to like learn all that. And you think to yourself, I should be able to do that with Japanese. But again, putting all that aside and everything, it's not for lack of effort or trying or anything. It's I would love a bit more of I guess that universal ability to explain just a little bit more. That kindness would be nice, because again, they have such amazing stories. There's so much amazing tales to tell and hear. Like again, I don't mind reading subtitles. I've done it for films in French, Korean films, Chinese films, the Swedish films. It and a lot of the other cultures do tend to keep it light, but there's also, I guess they kind of do um, a bit of an explanation in some of the films. Like I think I was watching a troll film, which wasn't that good. This is like a Swedish thing, but they explained troll culture and troll mythology in the film, so it kind of gave you context of how I think the Swedish countries like Norway, Sweden. I'm not even sure if that's correct, but
Mm.
Denmark and all them see troll Norwegian countries is what I meant to say. Um, eh, see trolls in their sort of culture and history and um, uh, uh, um, past, and that impact that it has on them socially and culturally. Um, they were able to give that sort of explanation, and you understand the magnitude of what then was going to come from these stories. So yeah, again, going off of that huge tangent, sort of bringing it back, um, it would be something. It's not as a critique, but something I would love to see in the future is I think anybody who wants their story to be better understood should take that into account and everything, because some of the stories are just amazing that they captivate you, and you just want to learn so much more, and unfortunately not all that knowledge is you know given, or you might not be able to appreciate a scene or some of the subtleties of a scene without understanding the cultural impact of the nuances of certain phrases or words or food things or whatever it is. Just a little bit more of that I think would be fantastic, because yeah, a lot of these films are amazing, just stunning, and better than what Hollywood's putting out today.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why we have a podcast like this and where we talk about it. It's generally going to be people like us that are like diving into the backstories of these things and understanding the culture and whatnot. But there's also like the general audience, and I consider myself probably general when it came to this movie because I just enjoyed it for what it was. It was an interesting tale. There were interesting characters and great art direction and pacing, and just as a movie on its own, like I was happy. I walked away not really feeling
Hmm.
like I need to go and investigate it. But I mean, even hearing you talk about it, then it may be something I do, and I've sort of like pick it up through osmosis. Like, I mean, I heard about Princess Mononoke before speaking to you about it, which was just through, interviews. Like where I go geeky is I look at games and read interviews from the game directors and where they come up with their ideas, and because some of it's just like amazing, and then as I get to learn like a lot of a lot of the ideas for like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild came from a lot of Miyazaki's work and through typical folklore tales in Japan, and that's the sort of stuff that that drives us in terms of the passion when it comes to talking about this stuff. So, but yeah, Princess Mononoke for me was just all those things. It was great. I mean, obviously the things that stood out to me. I was actually so I've got on YouTube, of course. I've got a couple of clips up here and there, and one of them was the giants walking along the forest spirit, and
Yes.
I think I mentioned it to you. I reckon because there's no. I'm just trying to think. There's nothing that's springing to mind of any of those type of things like that in Breath. I mean, there's similar things like with the sages, and then
Mm. The
the
Satori.
the satori, and then there's the divine beasts and that sort of stuff. But I've actually feel like more something that was closer to that, especially when the forest spirits walking around trying to find its head, was Majora's Mask, because there's four giants in that you
Yes,
have to
you did
free
say that.
in the temples, and yeah, they look very similar design. So that was the interesting thing I saw there. But yeah, no, I love this film, and I think I do actually want to check out more the Ghibli stuff. Like the one that went big in the West here was Spirited Away, and I remember even that when that came to cinemas, a lot of people over here were gushing about that. So that's probably the next one I'm going to check out.
Do check it out. So Spirited Away. Um, I guess going into it, what do I have to say? It's a different story than Princess Mononoke. In essence, what I mean by that is, um, I guess with Princess Mononoke there was that I guess almost arc of redemption. Not necessarily good versus evil, none of that. Whereas Spirited Away, there kind of is, and there kind of also is some underlying tones which relate more to, I guess, real world references. Where with Princess Mononoke you can get lost in fantasy and say it as, a prince trying to redeem himself, or do what he can to get rid of an evil, and people not really being all entirely bad and not all entirely good and all that sort of stuff. With Spirited Away, there's this underlying tone of, um, I guess, uh, what um, culturally what some women have to go through
Mm,
from a young age.
okay, yeah.
And yeah, so
So
it's
it's
been
pretty heavy
argued that
stuff in there.
yeah, some heavy stuff there.
Yeah.
With a particular character, you'll see that character, and also obsession, and I guess versus actual caring of a person, um, and also some old Japanese cultural things about like ownership over people, and not necessarily slavery, but indebted slavery, if you will.
Mm.
So like you're a slave because your parents have debt or whatever, sort of thing. So there are some of those darker tones, all masked through a whimsical, at the very surface, kind of Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz sort of tale.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I kind of want to see. If it's does have different meanings throughout it, that sounds like it's a good deep story. But was there anything in particular you wanted to chat about with Princess Mononoke? Because I can't think of, not
Mm,
really interested in going through a blow by blow, but just
yeah,
any
no,
sort of
no.
standouts or call outs. Because like I don't really. It's funny, like it's not one that I've needed to go back to, and the only thing I'd like to do is actually go back and watch it with Japanese voice actors and English
Oh,
subs,
you
because
did mention that.
I said to you, yeah, when I watched it, I was like, some of the English ones felt a little bit off, like it didn't really suit what was going on in the animation, or they sounded a bit weird, and I'd imagine hearing the Japanese
So,
voice actors might make a bit more sense.
so, and so I guess to touch a little on the tangent I went on before about localizing a lot more of anime. I find that a good a good localization, a good understanding of anime, what they will do is they will take jokes, local phrases and turn of phrases and stuff like that, and colloquialisms, and they will best match it to the tone meaning and I guess understanding of what's happening in English. They'll match it as best they can with the English counterpart, generally one for one.
Mm.
But in the instance that they can't, like, because I feel that Japan does also have a few words like in German, like you know how Germans have like words that don't exist in English.
Yep.
Um, that I
Schadenfreude.
think they, yeah, stuff like that. Exactly.
Mm.
But the Japanese sort of seem to have phrases like that as well, and
Yep.
then match it or get to the close as close as they can.
Yeah.
Really bad localization is, as you said, that you'll and this is the reason I don't occasionally have subtitles on in English with English dubbing on like studio um, Ghibli films, is because occasionally you will find that the subtitles won't match what they're saying, and it is slightly through context and or different wording or phrasing, and it throws off the actual impact of the scene.
Mm.
And we are getting a lot better at it. Like here in the West, we are getting a lot better at working with that. So one of the things, and again, touching on very briefly, that and why I say this is I think Japan has a lot to has a style of comedy that has to do with um, word puns. Like they're really big on word puns and everything
Yep.
because certain words do sound the same. Um, but some of that doesn't really translate as well in English. So a good localization, what they will do is they'll find a comedy beat that kind of fills the same spot,
Yep.
but that won't necessarily be about puns, but a same comedy beat
Mm.
that will suit that scene and it will fit it in perfectly. A decent a decent localization will translate it basically word for word.
Yep.
And so you'll kind of get the understanding of the scene,
Mm.
but the jokes won't hit as well because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it
It
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't
doesn't
translate
match.
as well.
Doesn't.
Like a
Yeah.
joke doesn't translate as well, or a
Yeah.
saying or a phrase doesn't translate as well. A
Yeah.
bad localization will just put in like something entirely
Very
unrelated.
or very basic sort of English. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. The boy went
So
to the store. Okay.
yeah, the bonus. Yeah, exactly.
I think I've seen
Oh,
actually. You talked about the translation, and again, that takes this is my geek part of me coming out. Is it took me back to when I was reading up about Twilight Princess when that came out, Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, and they when they're doing the translation for that, they in Japan they don't have a word for cowboy, so it's like sheep herder. So they had to
right.
work with Nintendo of America to try and make it. It's kind of like a cowboy, kind of like a sheep herder, kind of, and they had to work out what they were calling Link. Even though I don't think they don't really have a reference to him there, but it was that I think they just talked about some of the challenges of the translation from Japanese to English, and I think they ended up just leaving that out of the English translation. I don't know if it's in the Japanese one, but it's just implied, of course, because you're doing tasks kind of as like a shepherd almost in the way at the start of the game.
Right, like cattle hand. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's brilliant. No, and yeah, yeah, you're right. It does go both ways. It does go both ways. Um, so yeah, but no, with I guess with to sort of round out Princess Mononoke. Yeah, I fell in love with the film after I'd seen it the first time. Um, and aside from the scenery and everything, it was just the characters were so well written, and the pacing, the story unfolded naturally. It was just so there was
Effortless.
never at one point too much or too little. It was you're constantly there.
Yeah, yeah, it kept you going, and it sort of even breathed in that part. I think it was the
Yes.
part where they're sort of when he first goes to the town, and it sort of just sat with them a little bit. And at first, I was like, "What's going on here?" And then it all obviously came back around right at the end when the
Mm.
obviously all the bad stuff was going off towards the end, and yeah, it wrapped it up really really nicely. And of course, shout out to was it John DiMaggio? Yeah, he's one of the characters.
Yes, I think he was the
Yeah,
god. So
he stood out as soon as you hear him. Like, I think he said, that is so. I'm pretty sure that's John DiMaggio. I could hear Bender in there.
yep. um,
Uh,
yeah, with the Gonza, John, yeah, John DiMaggio. Um, I think the real famous voices was Minnie Driver as Lady Eboshi. She is
That's right.
fantastic.
Yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
I've heard some of her more voice acting and brilliant.
Yep.
Um,
She's a funny lady in real
oh,
life. I've seen her. Have you seen the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson? It's an American
I've
talk show. He
I've
actually
seen bits, but I've seen bits, but yeah, I've
yeah, he's had Minnie Driver on a couple of times, and God, man, she's a bloody funny woman. Real good sense of humor.
oh, it's brilliant. Um, yeah, let's have a look. See. So Billy Bob Thornton was
Oh,
Chico Bo.
who was
Who is
that
Chico
character?
again?
Because yeah, if I'm honest, I've forgotten a lot of their names. It wasn't that
The-
the names weren't that important. Like it was, you got what was going on in the story, and they weren't really. It wasn't super character heavy in a way. Like, it was characters, but it was more about the overall story, what was going on, and the themes. I think was more important in that movie rather than the characters themselves.
so Chico Bo was the monk.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yep. Yeah, he's cool. I like that character.
Yeah, he was such a fun character, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And Okoto Nushi. Who was Okoto again? Okoto was Okoto. Oh, Okoto Nushi. So the boar
mm.
was the very talented. Oh, sorry. Give me a second. I just lost it.
Maybe this dude on the screen. I've got a fax video on Princess Mononoke up, and they just had a actor there. I think I don't know him
Is
though.
he? Yeah, I know him through some of his films, and he's got this rich voice. If you've seen Community, you've seen
No,
Keith David.
yeah, don't know him.
He he's the voice of the president in Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah, God, he's got a good voice.
He's yeah fantastic, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he was the boar, the elderly
Oh,
boar king.
huh. Well, there you go.
Uh,
Yeah.
Ashitaka was played. Yeah, Billy Crudup was Ashitaka, so the main character Ashitaka was
Don't know him.
yeah, neither do I. That sounds really horrible. But
That's all right. Some of them. I mean, I kind of like it when I'd still, yeah. I mean, these days, if they get, like the good old meme at the moment's been Chris Pratt, like voicing everyone, like Mario and that,
I
and
know.
it's yeah, getting a bit tight. Like I think I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Borderlands, the movie. Jack
No,
Black's
I've
playing Jack Black is playing Claptrap, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's cool. Like he's great, he's
mm,
you love it, but it kind of gets a bit like, come on, guys, there's other people, bring another actor,
yeah.
bring young actors in, like I just want to change it up a bit, give us some new people to go, get amazed by, but. No, they'll stick with the famous names to have it headline, and it's sell again. It goes back to the money thing, right? Those names sell the movies, so
I guess so, but I mean, God, that's horrible. I mean,
yeah.
and again,
Actually, I saw that the trailer's actually pretty good. Like it's surprising. So I'd never, I don't know
really,
about you, but I bounced off that first Borderlands game off boring looter shooter. Like I just that did not grab me at all.
look,
But
I liked
the
it.
movie
I
looks
liked it because
funny.
of yeah. No, I was I liked it because it was a looter shooter. Funnily enough,
Yeah, that's
um,
it. It's why I bounced off Destiny. I tried Destiny 2, and just not my kind of game.
um, look, I haven't seen it yet, and I kind of stayed away from seeing it. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, love Jack Black. I can't remember
Kate
who else.
Blanchett, she's in it.
Kate Blanchett, love her. I can't remember
Um,
who else is in it. But
yeah.
I love them all. But it's one of those things where I'm like, do we really need a Borderlands movie though?
Oh, well,
You
and
know,
the writers are, I think they're, they've done some real stinkers. I can't remember what they were. They might have
oh
been
no,
like
oh
the writers of
no,
Morbius, or I might be thinking of Madam Web there.
it's
But
Morbin time.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. They've done flops. Like I've seen it, and you're just like, oh god. But it's funny enough. I know the trailer's not. I mean, trailers these days I feel like have been pretty accurate. Like a lot of the trailers for movies that you think are bad, yeah, the movie ends up coming out and being bad. But this trailer was actually pretty good. I was like, oh, that's not bad. I won't go see it. I'll just wait for reviews and might find other means of getting it. But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
surprisingly good trailer.
Oh, like I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. Genuinely, I don't know. I want to. look, I might give it a watch, but yeah,
Mm.
no, not sure, man. Not sure. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, ugh, do we really
Do we
did we
not,
really need
mate?
you know, a Bloodlines film?
This is the next thing Hollywood's going to focus on, right? Like they've done the comic
What
book
video
stuff's
games?
dying off. Yeah, video games is next. Like look at Last of Us got awards. It's been doing really well. The Mario movie went really well. They're just going to start pumping out video game adaptations. Like Halo's got another season. The Fallout TV series is going to come out this year. I think it's in April.
Actually, the
Um,
Fallout TV series didn't look too bad.
that looked good. Yeah, that trailer looked alright, and it's from the
I
showrunners from Chernobyl. So, and that's a pretty meant to be a good TV series. Never saw it, but I think it's like looking good for that one.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's one of those,
we're gonna
it's one of those
see.
ones where I'm like, you know, is this gonna be?
There's
Yeah,
gonna be some stinkers. Like you can't have all winners. Like so, there was another like old Hideo Kojima's working on. I think the Death Stranding movie's been made. That'd be interesting. I'm actually kind of interested to see that because I'd. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get off topic. Yeah. So
yeah.
Princess Mononoke.
Um,
That's if we're wrapped with that, we can maybe move on to the next.
yeah, I'll move on to the last one before we start closing things out. I was gonna say, yeah, and I'm not gonna give a blow by blow for this one because you know enough people I think have seen it. And the last film I think we did watch over that sort of Christmas break period, early January, um, was How the Grinch Stole Christmas by the amazing and talented Jim Carrey.
He did
Now
everything.
that film,
He did it all.
that film, yeah, that film holds up. It came
Yeah.
out in 2000 and it still holds up. It is hilarious. Like the energy and just the the um persona that that Jim Carrey is able to morph into as the Grinch is brilliant. Is fantastic. It's lovable. It's funny. It generally is hilarious. Like, and it has enough for adults
Oh
to
yeah.
to to sort of keep you well vested, but also enough for kids to be like, ha ha ha, it's so funny. Because yeah, the little man, he laughed his head off at Jim Carrey's sort of crazy antics. Well, I was laughing at that, sort of having a few chuckles because I'm like, oh yeah, the child in me. And then at the same time, like some of the, quick-witted sort of lines that he threw out, I was just like, wow,
Yeah,
wow, this,
that was funny watching because I, out of curiosity, I watched the Illumination Studios talking about them before, of course. I just skimmed through that movie, and it's similar. It's actually similar story wise, by the looks of things, generally speaking. But I mean, obviously, it's based off the Doctor Zeus books, but
mm,
the it had nothing, like there was no bite to it. It was so predictable, like a lot of these modern movies. And I'm not, that's the last sort of negativity I'm going on, but I couldn't believe watching this how, again, they obviously knew what they had there with Jim Carrey and just pointed the camera and let him go, because honestly, if you took him out of it, I think the rest of the movie wasn't great. But you're right with that adult sort of humor in there. Like I look at it, I'm like, God, yeah, they'd never make this kind of movie today, and it sucks for it. Like I wish they'd just do this again, because it's fun. It's something you can watch with the whole family. Other than you're chucking that Illumination Studios one. What are the parents going to do? Sit there on the phones? Oh yeah, that's nice, whatever. But this one, I couldn't believe. Like it was when he suggested this, I actually was a bit like, I don't know if this will hold up. And no, I was well and truly won over. Like but I burst out laughing when he did the what's on my schedule today. And he's sitting there with a book, wallow in self pity, all these. He's just rolling off all that sort of
stare
stuff.
off
Like,
into the abyss.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was,
He just blankly stares. It's like,
oh,
well,
it was brilliant. It's just like, yeah, well, that's because a lot of obviously when you get into adulthood, a lot of you can relate to that, because you get to without Christmas without the kids, it gets a bit like, oh yeah, whatever, ho hum, blah blah blah. It's just another day.
exactly.
You get a little bit nihilistic at things, and it's just they nailed it with this character, and of course he just Jim Carrey, just Jim Carrey. Like I said, you point a camera at him and off he goes.
And you are right with the little man sort of watched the Illumination one before he actually saw the Jim Carrey one.
Ah,
Because yeah, and he sort of said, "Oh, Dad, I've already seen this one." I'm like, "No, you haven't seen this one." And so he loved this one.
mm.
But the Illumination one, you're right, has no bite. It's and who does the voice? I think it Michael Fassbender or something or other. There was one of the
Even
the
though,
English actors who ended up being the Grinch,
mm.
but the voice that he put on everything is basically just an imitation of Jim Carrey's Grinch.
All right.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
he attempts to sound almost like him, or that's what I found.
I don't. Yeah, I
And
don't know if I got that actually when I watched through it. It was very plain. Like I found he just sort of. He was actually really boring. He wasn't really animated like you'd expect in an animated film. I just found it really just flat. One note, one line. It was just, ugh.
yeah, no, in addition to that, like, but yeah, no, because the little man had seen it a few times, and and I'm sitting there and I'm like, half watching it, half listening, as a parent, I'm like, who's he? And I'm like, who is that? Who is that? And so when I did watch it, like the elimination one, I'm like, oh, and then I sort of like sat there, I'm like, oh, this is just like the Jim Carrey one, but like you said, it's very plain. There's no.
Yeah, there's yeah, I don't know what you can
Like
say. Like you compare it to the Jim Carrey one, and he's over the top in every sort of thing. There's
he's
like
an animated character come to life,
yeah,
whereas the animated character is like just dull puppet, which is sort of like I said, there's no bite. I can't put it better myself. There's no bite. There's like no um, the pacing of it all is just like blah blah blah. Thing
this scene
happens,
happens,
blah.
this scene happens, and I feel like it's just. I mean, we're probably going harsh on it. It is meant to be a kids movie.
Yeah,
The newer one, not necessarily a family movie, but it's the same thing that I find these days with a lot of these kind of movies. Is they're trying to please everyone, and when you please everyone, you
mm,
please no one. So
yeah.
whereas yeah, so like I said, something like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas is probably gonna offend you in some ways because it does have some that nihilistic humor and the self deprecation and the self hatred and like there's a what is it when he needs I love the scene where I'm gonna need a costume for the party and there's that dude playing the where he's yodeling or something out of the side of the hill and he just yoink
He drags
kicks
him
him off. Ah!
in, and he wears sort of the thing. He's like, "What?" He goes, "Max, it's a kilt." And he
Yeah.
has like the thing over his thing. He's like, "Sicko."
Yeah.
It, it's yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna go into blah blah blah. I think it's just a brilliant film. It holds up. I'm glad that little man was able to watch it and be like, oh, this is really cool, Dad. This is really funny. And he's like, oh, this guy, he's funnier. And obviously, like in his little head, he's trying to connect the elimination one with this one. Like, oh, is this before he did the? I'm like, no, no, this is a different film, Bowie. They're both the Grinch. It's just an entirely different one. And
Mm.
he's like, oh, okay, because yeah, but yeah, he goes, oh, he's much more funny in this one.
There you go. The kid knows
When
it. Kid knows it. So
yeah,
that's it. Signed, sealed, delivered, done.
oh yeah, because like I heard him giggle because especially when he's driving the little car, and then like
Yeah,
a big
yeah, that's
explosion,
hilarious. Yeah,
and then that big explosion happens, and he's like, what? Why would there be a big explosion?
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, oh
Absurdism.
yeah, which brilliant, yeah. So yeah, no, that was sort of the other film I'd watched, and again fell in love with that film all over again. It was just it definitely is to me like the Christmas film. It's such a great film to watch. Such a it really puts you in the mood for fun and happiness and everything. Brilliant film. Can't continue recommending it enough.
Well, it's still
But yeah,
it still has the moral sort of about it as well, which is
yes,
give people a chance. Like the little is it Annie Mae? Is that
Cindy Lou,
the Cindy
Cindy
Lou?
Lou. Oh, the
It's
actor.
one of those.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
No,
actress.
the character because
Oh, Cindy Lou
it's one
Who.
of those. Yeah, yes, yeah. So she's great. Obviously, she's meant to be the spirit that all of us should have around Christmas time, is except bringing people together, and that's all really done really well. And it takes him a bit to get there, but he eventually comes through, and he learns the error of his ways, and like it still has that heart in it at the end. It took a little while. Like that was the funny thing is it felt like scenes just happening initially, but I mean, I didn't mind it
Mm.
because it was Jim Carrey just mucking around. And that's fine by me. Like that's a lot of his movies are just like that anyway. But they did bring it around at the end there, and It's I'm just watching the scene now. I've got pulled up a clip of the one where he crashes the Christmas party. He's get made, the number one. He's just shaving the mayor's head. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
because you're right. It has that as well. It has a so which the other one really, yeah, which the elimination one really didn't have. So with the Jim Carrey one, there was that bully, that's why he was so isolated. He was bullied,
yeah.
and so he and there's a lot of that. So there's like that self-loathing, overcoming that, and becoming better and stronger, and the bully getting his comeuppance and showing that he's not really a nice guy.
Yeah, you
How and
understand
instead
the
of what
motivation of the character.
yeah. Whereas the
Yeah.
Illumination one, it was like, no, he's just a guy that prefers to be alone.
Was that it? Like they didn't do any sort of cutbacks,
Nope.
flashbacks? No.
There
Yeah.
is a flashback where
Oh yeah.
um he's in an adoption house or whatever it is, a orphanage is what they call them. Jeez, an
Yeah.
orphanage, and he's all alone, and that's his big trauma is that he was alone during Christmas.
All right. Wow. Great. A lot of
Like
thought put into that.
that's
Yeah.
my reaction, right?
Yeah. And that actually,
I
you talk
mean,
about the scene in the Jim Carrey version was with that kid. Although that kid was a really good actor. All the kids in that scene where they were, just setting up the bully and him, trying to. I
yes.
forgot the
Well,
mayor's wife's name, but yeah, having the crush on her and all that. That was all done well.
actually, it wasn't. That's the amazing actress Christine, I think Baranski,
Hmm.
um, who always looks amazing and elegant in like anything she does. Actually, the character who played the Grinch as a kid wasn't a child.
Oh, was it a dwarf?
Yes, it was a little person by the name of Josh Ryan Evans who was in a American soap opera called Passions
Oh my god! Yeah, I know
as a
Passions.
living doll. Yep,
Wow.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
Passions too. Yeah.
Far out. That was the one that was on like midday. It was like
Yep.
I'd be home sick from school. What the hell's this? Chuck this on. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like a soap opera but with magic, right? Wasn't it? Like dark
Yeah, and
magic
he
or
was like
something.
the living doll. Yeah, you're right. You're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it was so weird, so
It
bad.
was so weird. Um, who unfortunately passed away. I'm not sure to
Oh,
a disease, illness, or something else. But yeah, he passed away, and I didn't know that until I literally just looked up the cast. I'm like, oh, just Ryan Evans. Also, um, Bill Irwin is Cindy Lou's dad.
yeah, that's right. What else is he in? I was looking this up after the movie, but I've forgotten it all.
Uh, he is. Let's have a look.
He's been in heaps of stuff too. He's like, there's a few actors like old.
Vaudeville style stage. Yeah, he does a lot of vaudeville. Popeye, I remember that as a kid. Popeye, Lady in the Water, uh,
No, none of these ring a bell.
Confirmation, Higher Ground.
Although, so this is a Ron Howard film, wasn't it? Directed by Ron Howard because
His
his
daughter's in
brother,
it, yeah.
his daughter, yeah, and his brother's in it. He's Clint Howard. He's God, he can't miss that face. He's been in a lot of films too. He definitely
Oh,
stands out in the
you're
scene.
kidding! I did not know Clint Howard was.
So he's the mayor's
Um,
aide in the movie.
really, I remember him being the mayor's aide, but I completely, I didn't know he was his Ron
As
Howard's
soon as I
brother.
saw him, I was like, well, yeah. I mean, again, one thing I knew through Red Letter Media because they've pointed him out in some films. Like he's been in a lot of B grade films, and that's part of those shows. They review some of those, and yeah, so seen him in that. Once I knew that was Ron Howard's brother, I was like, oh my god! And every time you see him in heaps of stuff, he's another one. He's one of those actors that plays as like a minor character in tons
Yeah,
of these films.
I remember him in The Water Boy as
Yeah,
like one of
yep.
the and where else was he in?
Oh, it's
Let me have a look. At.
lots of those
Oh, he was
'90s
in
films.
Apollo 13.
Yeah, that's right. He's one of the dudes in the
Well,
control room.
yeah. Oh, he's not bad. Like I occasionally enjoy watching him.
He's just
Like
a
when he
minor
pops up,
minor role
yeah.
character. It's kind of hard to stuff up those roles, right? You got one or two lines,
Yeah, that's true.
and then yeah, um,
Here's your
but
coffee.
yeah, smile at the camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ron Howard. I mean, he's directed some good stuff, and it's this is a great film. Like he did this really well. Again, even the shots are really
The shots
just
are
everything.
fantastic, aren't they?
Just everything they've laid him up. Like they've obviously put a lot of effort into the sets. Like I'm just watching this scene where he's stealing Christmas. How and he's
Mm.
just all the inventiveness of the. Oh, obviously they've had Dr. Zeus to go from, like from the art side of things, but all the houses look great. The fake turkey there, the yeah,
Exactly,
it's
the fudge that he does like in the eating contest.
yeah,
The giant tree. Even like the makeup on the Who's just to make them
yeah,
like
cutesy
uncannily
looking.
like non-human.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch who played the Grinch in the Elimination one.
Ah, that's a yeah. Obviously, that's it's funny, hey, because he plays. Have you seen the Hobbit movies?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, he's the
he
dragon. He's
yeah.
I forgot the name. What's the name of that dragon? There's a name for it,
Um,
but
the name of the dragon is Smaug.
Smaug. That's it,
There
Smaug.
we go.
Yeah, yeah,
Smaug.
yeah. He's brilliant in that. But yeah, obviously,
Oh, you know, I actually think he's a brilliant actor.
yeah.
He's yeah, but I like I said in the Elimination one,
Ugh,
I think it
yeah,
was the
stinker.
writing that really didn't help.
Well, direction as well, writing direction,
Yeah.
because you'll have a directors usually in there. That's what they're doing for those animated films. They're in there telling you, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. And
Mm.
that was definitely a paycheck movie for him, not really a passion project.
It's yeah. But and also the uh young girl who played Cindy Lou Who,
Mm.
um
Oh, she's a rock band
who
singer.
yes, I
The
think
Pretty Reckless.
yes.
Yeah, that's one thing that stuck with me because I was chatting to Bonnie, my sister, about the movie because her and I watched it when we were kids and saying how great it was. And I was like, I was curious to see what happened to that girl because she looked like I thought she was one of the Fannings, one of the Fanning girls. Um,
Oh yes, yes, yes.
and then yeah, looked her up and like, oh no, she's a leader of a rock band. I'm like that's cool as that's
That is
I've
very cool.
heard a couple of their songs. I'm not really into their music, but they're rocking. Like, good on them.
Yeah. Um, but you know, that was sort of it for regards to me with my movies and everything. Um, but yeah, no, like I said, it out of the three Christmas themed movies to say that we sort of watched over that sort of holiday break, really and truly, I think The Grinch was the only one that really held up.
Yeah,
Um, it was just from beginning to end, laughing all the way.
yeah, enjoyable
Um,
family movie. Like I said, it's got stuff for the kids,
yes,
stuff for the adults. Um, Great set designs.
great
Just
characters all around.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, shall we take a quick break? I think I normally
Yes.
we do the segment of here's something, and I do have something small. There was a lot more that I could talk about. I've been playing a lot of games, but I think it's getting on a bit later. We've got, of course, movie coming. Movie. We've got work tomorrow, so we might take a quick break. Ivan's going to watch Shadow of the Erd Tree trailer, the DLC for Elden Ring. I've already seen it, and then we're going to come back and have a talk about it. So we'll be back in a moment. Yeah, we're back. And Ivan, you just saw the trailer for Shadow of the Erd Tree. What are your initial thoughts?
Wow. Honestly, um, there's so much to take in. I've literally just watched everything, and well, the one thing that stood out to me was one of the I think it was one of the bosses that I'd be very keen to see. I think it was in sort of like I'm not sure a theater or amphitheater or a coliseum,
Hmm.
but it was like I think the puppet line. I think you can also have it as a mount as well. I
Yep,
thought that was amazing. The new villain who snakes, which I think in I could be wrong. Um, Norse mythology, there's a great snake, isn't there? That the world snake, isn't there?
the
That
World
who
Serpent.
yeah, the world serpent. There's that. Yes. Um. Yeah. Look, it looks amazing. It looks
Yeah,
um.
doesn't it?
It really does. I'm curious to sort of dive into it a bit more and get more
Well,
understanding of the story. Yeah.
I've got a video playing in the background while we're like for the video version of this podcast, which is the Vati video. I watched
Oh,
that today. Although I yeah, granted I was doing other stuff, so I wasn't completely focused on it. But he's obviously breaking it. He's like what's a 3-minute trailer? He's done a 48-minute video on it, but it's brilliant. Like it does sound like it's going to be about America. So that the main
Yes.
villain's Messima. And the theory at the moment is potentially Messima's another one of the children of Radagon. This is where I get confused with the lore. It's a little bit hard to follow because there's so much lore in Elden Ring. But basically, it's answering. Looks like it's gonna answer some of the questions that were always left unanswered in the main game,
Mm.
which is awesome. Of course, the lore in this is incredible in this game, and got to thank you for getting me onto Vati Vidya and onto the Souls sort of series because I haven't gone back and played into the others yet, which I might end up doing. But just Elden Ring itself was just incredible the way the world's set out, and they got me so hyped that trailer that I've ended up starting a new run in Elden Ring because I'm just like, oh, I've got to get back into this. So I've actually started tonight before the podcast. I've started a new
Oh,
character
brilliant.
and off and going. But yeah, I mean, I love this trailer because it's, to me, a good trailer is it shows you, gives you an idea of what you're going to be dealing with, but it leaves you with more questions than answers, but it gets you hyped. And
Mm.
that's what I love about it. It hasn't given much away. It's just giving you little sprinkles of things here and there. And it's got me so ready for it. Like I think I said to you a while back, and what blew me away is Elden Ring's now like one of my top 5 games of all time. It's incredible, and I'm just like, I haven't been this excited since Tears of the Kingdom. I cannot wait for that June release date.
No, that is brilliant. And again, with it, you're right. Like the reason I was so lost for words is there's more questions than answers. Like for starters, who's that new serpent dude? What was that egg, round ball?
That's
Not sure if it's blood or whatever it is at the beginning. A hand sticking
that's
out is,
yeah,
yeah.
that's Marika.
It,
So apparently that's meant to be. I think it's Marika that was killed by.
all right.
Well, that's in Moog. So that's in Moog, the one of the other demigods. I haven't actually fought him, so you're meant to. Apparently, Miyazaki's come out in an interview and said you have to have at least beaten Radahn, General Radahn, and Moog. And I never actually found Moog. I didn't like my first 2 playthroughs. I didn't really look at guides because I just wanted to explore the world. And then I went back afterwards and I've looked where I can get to Moog. So I'm going to do that on this run. I've never actually fought him. So, but that's yeah. So Messima is the snake dude with the snakes, and yeah, he's
Okay.
potentially he's like I think a sibling to Marika, Melina, Melania, or yeah. God, yeah, names are going everywhere. But yeah, it's going to be more on what happened there because there's one area in Elden Ring you go down into like the one of the rivers. There's like 3 big main underground areas in Elden Ring, and one of them you find like I think Godwyn I think is one of the characters, and you see him dead there, and there's something going on there that isn't answered. And I'm hoping that gets answered in this DLC. But
That's brilliant.
oh,
I mean, because that being said, Vatia, um, he breaks down the whole law, and again, I fell in love with it through him.
mm,
Um, but like you said, at moment, this is the magnum opus. This is the epitome of all of From Software's past games, and like they just keep improving. Each game was an improvement over the last one, over a mistake. Cleaning it up, getting better, making perfecting it to get this that we
mm,
currently have. I would like to see sort of again what new exciting mechanics or classes or just gameplay features they add in this new DLC that they're exploring or hinting at to whatever their next eventual game will be. Because
yeah,
quite frankly, this game, um, there is so much it does right that everyone's just like, how are they going to top it? How are they going to top this?
yeah.
They
Yeah,
can't.
and it's almost like some people have suggested. So there was another interview. Someone raised Bloodborne
Mm.
because like pretty much the internet's dying for at least even a remaster to come to the PlayStation 5. And Miyazaki actually was said in an interview that he's waiting for a technological leap. So It's hinting at it's potentially the next
Oh,
PlayStation console. Um, and who knows, that could be a Bloodborne 2, like a sequel, or it could be a remake. Then, of course, you got Sekiro, which was really well received and really well sold. So, what's going on there? Is he going to do another one of those? Of course, Six sold really well, so maybe that's a different team, like they did on different development cycles. But
mm,
I mean, you got to say, like Elden Ring sold ridiculously well. They'd be silly not to do a sequel to this. But then again, Miyazaki and FromSoft don't take me as like we're going to chase trends. They just seem to do their own thing and roll with it. So I think I'm on board. Whatever they put out next, do what you want because my god,
yeah, yeah.
brilliance.
I mean, and not to get too into it, and probably a topic for another day, regarding certain gameplay, or particularly early gameplay styles of From Software's earlier games, particularly Demon Souls and of the such.
Mm,
Um, I was going to say, and again, I not going to delve too deeply into it. Is the gameplay reminded me of it being in a weird way. Uh, Sorry, especially the first Dark Souls was slightly Metrovania in its path. And what I
mm,
mean by that is, how Metrovania, you kind of go from one section to another, get stronger, get new skills, whatever, and then open up paths to get through to other areas.
yep,
Dark Souls kind of did that,
yep,
in the sense that you open up a shortcut from one section to another, which then you sort of have to backtrack through to get to another section, to backtrack through to get another section. Admittedly, some of the older sections you don't have to revisit as much, but a lot of it is sort of backtracking through sections you've already been through in order to open up new sections.
mm,
But again, like, not gonna get into it at um into detail. That's a whole other discussion for a whole other day.
mm,
That uh yeah, I would like to delve into. But um it what I wanted to get at is, I love the fact that they've kind of strayed away from that, and how you've told me several times that how Elden Ring is this open world. It's kind of like Breath of the Wild on steroids in a darker world, where
mm,
off go do, you discover whatever you want, and you sort of run into uh, any form of adventure you want to,
mm.
and I love it, and I hope that the DLC keeps that trend, with more exciting sort of discoveries, darker, you know, locations, places where you have to sort of revisit with an item. It'd be really cool. I
Yeah,
just can't wait to see what it has involved.
and I mean, look at that. There's that shot where the Tarnished is riding up to the cliff face, and you're looking at the Erd tree with its sort of like almost like the sun rays are draped, like it's got drapes over it.
Mm,
That's all new. Like at first I was like, oh, that looks kind of like a different angle. No, I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's all new, and that's all expansive open land. So it looks like they're sticking with that. Although, yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I think I also saw that in an interview he mentioned that they're going to potentially go a little bit more back to their roots with this one and explore
oh, really?
verticality. So a bit more
Okay.
Dark Souls corridor sort of focused. So maybe that's like legacy dungeons. That's what the big discussion has been. Are they going to have legacy dungeons in this one, or is it just going to be rock up to area and fight boss? And judging by these scenes, there's one here with the jars, or the one where he's walking up that pillar, I think, and there's
Yeah,
that big
the pillar
castle.
one.
I think they are. Looks like they are legacy dungeons. So, um, yeah, I mean, not much more to say than that. I guess it's just amazing that this exists. This sort of thing. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
glad to find this. I've been yeah. I will maybe next time I'll talk to you about Hades because I've actually started playing that as well, and I've got
brilliant.
thoughts on that. But
Yeah, I'll bring up a few other ones that I've started playing,
oh,
and sort of my thoughts. So
that'd be
yep.
interesting.
But
Um,
yeah, no, it I and again, I wonder if in this DLC you still have your mount, or if they'll swap it out for something else. Like, like you said, if they're discussing verticality, perhaps you won't have a mount. Perhaps that's one of the things that have changed, and it's more slower paced.
Well, you got like from those screenshots and the footage, torrent's still there, so your horse. And
Oh, good.
in Elden Ring, you can double jump with torrent, and you can also got these I forgot what they call, but they're like pretty much rockets of streams of air. You jump on those, and it shoots you way up into the sky, which gets you from like I was explaining it before I was on the beach, and it shot me up onto the plateau. So that I doubt they'll have anything new there, but it's more like from the Vati video. There's new obviously Ashes of War, so your special sort of attacks, and one of them was where the dude was doing the kicking, like the ninja sort of style. That wasn't in the base
Mm.
game. There's the Crucible Knight wings, and that's great because that move kicks your ass in the base game. So it's awesome that you get to have that. There's a couple of other things you called out there. I think some of like the throwing weapons are new as well. So it looks like they've added. Well, there is again a part of the press release. I think there's like something like 8 new categories of weapons, and there's a whole bunch of things that they've written off there. But I'm not. It's funny. Like I haven't really explored the builds in this game. Like again, I'm playing what I played the last 2 times I played through. It was just a sword and shield. Like that's what I'm doing. But I think I will eventually go back and try maybe a magic run or a faith run or something like that just to change it up. But that's another thing. Like you talked about Metroidvania before. That's what's sort of holding me going back to the Dark Souls, because I did try Dark Souls Remastered and butted my head against the wall until I gave up. And I'm not a huge fan of the Metroidvanias, I think. So that's what's kind of gives me pause about going through with different builds. I'm obviously saying that I'm going through again now, but there's stuff I've missed. So I'm going to be using guides this time to find the stuff that I missed.
Oh, brilliant. And I gotta say, I appreciate you for saying that. I appreciate that you understand what I mean by that. I mean, of course, people be either screaming, going, "What? How is it?" I mean, it has those sort of, I guess, the same sort of pacing like a Metroidvania where you have to sort of backtrack, and like you said, you're butting your head against the wall for the
Mm.
majority of it, because you're gonna have to be like, oh, I have to keep going back through here. I'm not really. The enemies no longer become a challenge; they become more of a
Just a
hindrance.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, and I'm glad that they've gone a separate way from that, because it is tedious. Whereas this is more fun. You're like, oh, okay, I'm in a new area. I have to get rid of these enemies, and I can play around or whatever. So
And I mean,
yeah.
I still go back. Like that's the beauty of it. Is like, well, I can't fight this dude, so I'm going to go away and level up, and then once I'm ready to go, all right, here we go, and then it's on, and then yes, I got past him. That felt great, and then pretty much rinse and repeat for the entire game. That's most of it. But you get your confidence up, and you start getting better at the moves, like figuring out the right times of frames when it comes to your forward roll, your dodge, and whatnot, and eventually you start getting cocky and confident. You start taking on some of the bosses that are probably a bit
Mm.
far along than you are, and that's when it really clicked for me, and that's I understand what Dark Souls is all about, is taking on those stronger foes. So that's why I'm thinking maybe I can go back, because I've been easily brought into the FromSoft style of play. Now that I'm familiar with that, maybe I'll be able to go back and go, okay, I get my task at hand here, and but I have a feeling I'll do the same thing if it gets to you got a brick wall you got to pass, and like, oh well, I've spent 6 hours on this boss, I'm not even fun anymore. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we'll see.
there is a bit of that, because I mean, you are right. I found, having played it the first time, I was a bit more cautious. I was like, yeah, backtracking, leveling up, and like, oh, now I'm strong enough, I can wipe out the next section. Oh, now I'll do the same thing, and it got tedious and boring. But then, yeah, I found that if I just sort of jump in, you learn patterns, but then you get to a point where you're like, oh, this guy's just too hard. You know what? I can't be stuffed after like the fifth, sixth time. Like, ugh, I need to put this down.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying.
Well, that's probably going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to probably start getting ready for bed. Was there anything else you wanted to wrap up
No,
on?
that's
Or?
actually the same with me. I'm probably gonna call it. Been up since about 6. So yeah. Um, now I guess what we'll be discussing in our next podcast. At this point we don't know. So it'll be a surprise to you listeners as much as a surprise to us. We've been dabbling in a lot. We've been doing a lot of different things. So stay tuned, and hopefully, uh, our next topic will be just as interesting as this one.
Have a good one, everyone. Catch you next time.
Catch you next time. Bye.